Hello. Tells me I'm live, but you never know. So you tell me while I catch up on all this lovely chat, which I can't see at all. So that needs to be bigger for a start. Hello, Renee. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Jonathan. Oh, hello, Carol.
We are live.
Oh, Carol, news of the new book club. Have you heard? I've got it in the slides, but I'm actually quite excited because I like both these books. Oh, hello, Paul. Hello, Graham. Graham, food. What have you got? Oh, did we have a lovely cake last week?
Graham's got a new teddy bears.
Oh, is this, what were we going to call them?
Yahoo and...
No, Yahoo and Bing.
Yeah.
Yes, Yahoo and Bing. I suggested Elaine and Mike, but apparently that didn't go down well. Hello, Kim. Hello, Paul. Who else have we got with us? Do we have all the Debs? Did I see all the Debs there?
No, there's two Debs.
Would a Deb missing? Yeah. Oh, dear.
Deb was working.
Hello, Peter. Hey, you can hear me. Oh, I never like it when the start to the show actually works because it's usually downhill from there. But fingers crossed the tech gods are with us tonight. You never know, do you? Right, okay, what have we got? Is everything working? Oh, what's that? That's not good, is it? Oh, what's happened there? What was I just saying about the tech gods being with us? That shouldn't... No, that's bad. Let's swap the slide and see if that fixes it. That was weird. Shall we go back? And now it's fine. Just playing with my mind. That's the tech gods letting us know that they're in charge. So you've been warned. God's sake, honestly. Right, so what have we got? We have the week at MacBites headquarters. Been a rare old week. One if I never have again, it'll be too soon. Then we've got Notion news. This is news from Notion rather than news imminently with Notion. Well, it's happened. I'll just tell you later. It'll be easy. Then we've got new Notion tweaks. They're bringing out tweaks and not telling us. Anyway, they have this week corralled all the tweaks together and are telling us. Then there's a new Pitch app for Pitch, which we talked about last November. Then we have the Build With Me Vivaldi, where we'll be tweaking the life out of it. And then Mike's got LAMBDA, his LAMBDA, his super LAMBDA functions. And then it's on to Scrivener, where we're looking at all things formatting related. Oh, joy. It's complicated. Let's leave it at that. But what has YouTube done to you? This week for me, it had the temerity on my M1 iPad to broadcast something at 360. Why? How many times do I have to tell it? I wish it listened. You know, I only have to... In fact, you know what happened this week, Mike? This is genuine. At no point ever have I gone to YouTube and wanted to watch The Smiths. What was I suggested that I might like?
The Smiths.
Worse than that, there's a video all about Morrissey.
Oh.
Where did it pick that up from? I only got to think about The Smiths and they offer it to me, but why can't they just show it me in the size I want it? Anyway, oh, Carol's got 360 as well.
I was, last Saturday morning, I was going through the video to get the timings, and it started off at 1080, and then I clicked stop to write down the timings or something, and then I pressed play and it had gone down to 360. You
see? You leave it unattended. It's just crazy. Oh, now Debbie's got 720. Oh, I'm liking Kim. Funny when I tell my friends I'm learning LAMBDA and they don't get it. Yes, I've got friends like that. I should say acquaintances, shouldn't I? Because friends would understand my joy for super LAMBDAs and things. Oh, anyway, while you're down there changing it at the cog, give us a like if you see anything that you like tonight, because it really does make a difference. So, our week started last Saturday. Obviously, we have our pre-recorded music shows that were going on, but it was a big day because despite the fact that it's what we call International Weekend, and what that means is, although it seems to have gone on for about the last 3 weeks, to be honest, it means that there's no domestic football. But the opportunity was taken to have Soccer Aid instead, which is a thing that's been going on for the last 15 years. I think Robbie Williams was behind it initially, wasn't he?
I think so.
'Cause he's still there now. And it's a match that they play, and it's for charity. But I must admit, it is actually quite a thing, because the two teams playing are England and a World 11. And it's quite competitive. Well, let's just say it didn't end well for England, as per usual, to be honest. So the World 11 won. We were doing all right, and then it suddenly just happened and we lost 3-0. However, I did find a little piece of joy in it, and that is MacBites' favourite, Martin Compston from Line of Duty. Well, he was happy. Because he's Scottish, if you were wondering why. I know he doesn't have a Scottish accent in Line of Duty, but if you've actually ever heard him speak, he does have a broad Scottish accent. So he was playing for the rest of the world, and they let England know that they'd got beaten, put it like that. Which all of that was happening at 8 o'clock while we were trying to go live with Brooklyn's by request. So I had the football on one screen and I had the Brooklyn stuff on another screen. And our theme was autumn and winter. And we stretched it a bit, didn't we? Into January and February and all kinds of other stuff. And then went totally off-piste because we could. Because ABBA had announced on the, was it the Wednesday, that they're coming back with a new album called ABBA Voyage. And we got 2 tracks from it, so we played all of that as well. While that was going on, oh yeah, you know, actually, the ABBA thing's really exciting because I remember that from the first time round. I was a mere child, obviously. I was in primary school, but I still loved them. Now, while all of that was going on, like we didn't have enough to deal with, then there was the Asda Man. They almost surpassed themselves this week because they sent a text saying they were on their way. Nothing wrong with that. Only they would have been over 3 hours early. Nice one, Asda. Not. And Mike was out with the dog, so it wasn't happening anyway. As if I'm going to the door and dealing with it. But they did eventually turn up at the right time, didn't they? After you'd poked them with a stick. And they apologised as well. So I don't know whether he was actually on his way, because there would have been some frozen stuff. There would have been liquid by then. So who knows? Their system error. The usual. Which took us to Sunday. Oh, somebody started Sunday very well. Lola spotted lunch by the canal and decided that she'd stealthily move towards it. However, lunch was wise to her and escaped. Oh, she's just adorable with those things. She really is. And I love the brave 2 at the back that just stand and look at her like, yeah, and... But she had great fun. We need to take her up to LAMBDA, you know, where Maya met the biggest duck he'd ever seen. Do you remember that? Yes, when we went down the end of that pier? It wasn't our idea to go down the end of the pier, but Mike saw... Lola... Good grief. Maya saw the pier, and that was it. He decided we were going down there. Anyway, she claimed she would have had no problem acquiring furry friend for lunch, but she was hampered by being tethered to Mike, as you can see, by 2 intertwined leads, because she's not trusted. She's just too strong. In the evening, it was the last hurrah for book club, where we finished off our how to read a book, which is going to be quite handy, because the other one, the next one, is on the way. What did we manage this time? Oh, 3 hours, 40 minutes. But they did give us the skinny on what's happening next. Peter, I don't care if they're ducks or geese or whatever. They've got feathers and Lola thinks they're food. So it doesn't really matter what they are. She likes them. She likes them. The other one was definitely a duck, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that one definitely was. So they announced what we're doing next, and what we're doing next is 2 books at the same time. Oh yes, we're getting ambitious this time. So it's Cal Newport's So Good They Can't Ignore You and David Epstein's Range, both of which I thought, oh, I knew I'd read So Good They Can't Ignore You. But Range, I thought, it rings a bell. And I realised that I'd got the book but not the audio book, so that would have explained it. But since then, I've done my initial pass of Range, and I can remember So Good They Can't Ignore You, but I will read it again. So if you'd like to join us, there's a link in the Notion thing, Mike, so you can pop it in. I know it says Book Club 5, but you just fill it in and then you can come to Book Club 6, which took us on to Monday. Monday, of course, is recording day, if there's going to be a show on Tuesday. But we had a bit of a clash because we wanted to watch a TV programme. Now, this is most unusual, but this was Fever Pitch, the rise of the Premier League. So, of course, we wanted to watch it, but we couldn't do both at the same time. So we took one for the team and we did the recording. But we definitely wanted to watch it because the Premier League was formed in 1992. That was the year Mike and I got together. We met the year before, but that was the year we got together. And it was at Old Trafford we met. So we had to time shift the programme, but happy to report it was well worth it. You'll probably have no recollection, but towards the end of that season, 92-93, it was a nerve-wracking end to the season, as you can see from the face of our manager, bloke in the middle, heading back up the stairs a little bit dejected. Does anybody spot anybody else there that they might just know? If you ignore the manager. It's really funny for me looking at that because I recognise so many people. They're all our friends. But is there one in particular that you might just recognise? Just the one, not two, just one. Oh, shall I put you out of your misery? No, I'm going to leave it there and see who comes up with something as you quickly look at that. Yes, Peter, it's Mikey. There he is, with hair that looks remarkably red, doesn't it? Yeah. It must be the sun. Don't worry about it. It is indeed Mike. There he is. So let's draw around him for those that don't. There he is. There. Oh, he sat down. Have you noticed everybody else has stood up? I don't know why. I can't remember. Now, before you think about it, let me just apprise you. That, not me. That's not me. That's our friend Joanne. But it's not me. No. So you've had a glorious look at Mike. However, I was concerned at the score too. And there I am, head in hands. Oh, yes. That is actually me. You'll probably not recognise me. Never seen that many pictures of me. But that is indeed me. Have you seen what I'm wearing, Mike, apart from the pink jumper? I've got that bracelet on that you bought me for my first birthday with us together.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I think I've got a watch on as well, which again, most unusual. But as you can see, I was concerned. That's my look, which means, for crying out loud, all you've got to do is get it in the net. That's my look.
Oh, your England look.
It's my England look. Yeah, that's a permanent look with England. But, you know, things were not good at that point. Weren't we losing 1-0?
We were losing 1-0.
Yeah, so it wasn't good at all. But we scored. Whoa! I was a happy bunny. Look, I think you can just about see you, can't you? But I'm stood there behind. Oh, that's. Oh, yes, it is Joe. Joe's behind Pam. But yes, that's me, pink jumper at the back. Stood next to the interpreter. The interpreter looks awfully happy as well. So yeah, that was good. Oh, clapping and happy. And look at you. You're giving it the one finger as you're singing right next to me. Just in case you're missing this. This is us here. Oh, well, you know when we say we sit next to the bench, we really mean next to the bench. Did I look bored? Well, they were just playing appallingly and all they had to do was win. It was easy. If they won this match, we didn't win the league that day, did we? But
that day.
But if we'd have lost it, that would have been the end of it. So we had to win. Losing was not an option. Anyway, by some miracle, which I'd love to show you the clip, but I'd probably get slung off YouTube for doing it. There is a clip online. Find a copy of it, Mike. Where we managed to get one back and then another one back and then they got one back and we ended up winning 3-2. So at the end of it, I think this was our last home game before the league. That's Alex Ferguson. Obviously, you can see Mike in his little Scotland cap there. Oh, and there are friends behind us. It's so good to see this. That's my arm, if you're wondering. But if you look at what Mike has got in his hand, oh, preemptive celebrations much. Champagne. Champagne in a plastic cup. We actually took a bottle of champagne with us that we decanted into a plastic bottle and some plastic cups, and we all had champagne to celebrate. Well, it was the first time we'd won the league in 26 years. Now, obviously, you can't see much of me on that one. No. But I seem to be wearing most of the champagne by the end of the celebrations. But great, great, great memories. Oh, it was fantastic. So we love that. Are those still our seats? Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Whilst they're not in the COVID.
While they're not in the COVID, what do they call it? Sterile
zone.
Yeah, you see, because it's so close to the bench, that's why we've been unceremoniously moved, because we're too close to them. Now, I like to think of it as they're too close to us. But yes, there are seats. We have them to this day. Unbelievable. Oh, we had fun watching that, I can assure you. So, now you've seen me, even though it was a little while ago. So, that took us on to Tuesday, where we were still in the studio. I know we should have finished this by then, but one, we got slightly sidetracked by the wonderful programme on the TV, and two, we had to do a special record. But we did manage to get a show out. I know, it's a miracle. It is. Hugh, skip to my loo. Hopefully you've all heard it and you'll get the in-gag. But the reason I had to do the last minute record was we were figuring something would be announced on Tuesday, and it was. California Streaming, which is an Apple event next Tuesday at 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Central European, 10 a.m. Pacific, and 1 p.m. Eastern. You see how good I was there?
Yeah.
Oh, I got them all. However, we are going an hour early with a live show, so do join us. It's at MacBites.fm, and we will be there from 5 o'clock UK time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and 6 p.m. Central European. I think that covers everybody. Possibly.
Not Australia.
Not Australia, but it's an awkward time in Australia. They change their clocks yet, or don't they? So, some weirdness happens anyway. You end up 2 hours off. But there you go. Right, which took us on to Wednesday. I was not happy on Wednesday. I wasn't happy on Tuesday, to be honest. Wednesday, it was boiling. It was absolutely boiling. I know it's September. I know it's Manchester, and I know it should be raining, but it wasn't. It was far too hot. But I did manage to squeeze in a Morrison's order. But when it arrived, in fact, before it arrived, you know when they send you the little text to tell you what's missing? I won't say this was the primary reason for placing the order, but it was certainly important. I'd ordered 2 fennel. I know this saga of the fennel has been going on for weeks. That's because Tesco's don't sell fennel anymore. Asda hadn't got any fennel, but Morrison's did. They had 2, but they wouldn't give them to me. So they sent me a Billy Do saying that they couldn't provide the fennel. So bad words were said about that. They did bring me some lemon juice, so I let them off because of the lemon juice. Which took us to Thursday. We were promised it would be cooler. Guess what? It was still boiling all day. And then, just as Mike said, I think I'll take the dog for a walk, the heavens opened. It got a little bit cooler. That's why Mike said I'll take Lola out. And then the rain started, and within seconds, it was a complete monsoon. The walk was delayed, much to Lola's annoyance, but there again, she doesn't like getting wet either. So it was a bit of a difficult spot for her to be in. It didn't make it any cooler. It's still boiling now. Even though the temperature is down to, it says 17, you must be kidding. I think it's about 45 in here. So yeah, not good. Which took us to Friday, when something appeared we haven't seen in years. And I mean years. The last time I remember one of these arriving, and it's something that arrives at your house completely free in the UK. But why we're getting one, I've no idea. I'll explain why. But I don't think I've seen one since before my mum died, which was 2014. So I don't know why we've got one now. But this turned up. To the uninitiated, that is a phone book. It's a local phone book. We're thinking that's why it says on the front, all right, our kid. Because that's a Mankism. If you're from Manchester...
Shall I say it in a Manchester accent?
You say it in a Manchester accent.
You're right, our kid.
That's a Manchester accent. Luckily, neither of us have one, thank God. But I've heard that phrase for years. And I said, I'm going to have to explain why it would say, all right, our kid. And I said, my aunt used to say that to anybody. You know, like, see you later, our kid. Just like, and I always took it to mean a friend, an acquaintance. But you had a totally different take on it, didn't you?
Yeah, our kid. It means our brother, my brother.
Oh, your sister. I know you've not got a sister, but if you had.
I've always thought he's just a brother.
No.
No.
Well, it doesn't mean that at all, does it?
No.
No, so Mike was totally wrong. It does mean just a friend. So it's something that a Mank person would say, apart from the fact that Mike and I
Johnny
have never said
doesn't
it in
even
our
have a
life.
landline. Does Johnny remember phone books?
Well, that's the thing, Jonathan. We haven't got a landline either.
Well, it's still stuck a phone book through the door.
So why have BT delivered a phone book to our door? If you're not aware, BT's British Telecom. They provide landlines, but we haven't got one. We haven't got a landline, full stop. So I don't know why we got a BT phone book, and we haven't had for the last 7 years. Maybe they made a mistake. But we haven't had one for years and years. And I said, it's the phone book still a thing? Because most people want to be ex-directory. Anyway, made the mistake of opening it. Yeah, should have gone to Specsavers. Not going to read that without binoculars, am I? It's not good. Do you know, I opened that completely random. And do you know where it landed, Mike?
No.
Trafford Healthcare NHS Trust. Like the last place on God's green earth you ever want to be. Trust headquarters, Trafford General Hospital, Davyhulme. I won't say Trafford General Hospital has a bad name, but it used to be called Park Penitentiary. Once you're in, you're never getting out. It's bad news, that. But yeah, that was a phone book was delivered. We were stunned. Totally stunned.
Debbie thought you said E.T.
No, it's BT. B for Bertie.
British Telecom.
It's probably full of ads. Now, Renee, it's interesting you mention that. It is at the front. So, yeah, like businesses and stuff. But most of the people in there, I would suggest, are businesses. Because who wants to be in a phone book and then get random calls? I really honestly thought, the dead tree thing was gone. Why would you waste paper on that? Because I think last time I said to my mum, we don't need this, shall I get rid of it? She went orbital. You might have access to the internet, but I don't. And I thought, no, Mum, but I do. And every time you want to ring somebody, you say to me, can you get me the number off the internet? So why are we keeping these phone books? But no, it's going to go in the bin. In fact, it'll go in the recycling.
Yes, it'll go in the blue bin.
It'll go, whatever. Oh, I've got a bin up here full of tins that I'm squirreling away. They're not in the tin bin. It's all right, they will be by tomorrow. So there you go. Okay, let's move on and have a look what Notion have been up to after our exciting week. So you could give us in ideas of what to do with that phone book if you like. I mean, we could have a bonfire with it, couldn't we? We could keep it in case toilet paper.
I was just going to say that in the next pandemic.
Yeah. So maybe we will keep it. I bet the one she didn't want me to throw out still in the cupboard somewhere.
I think it is.
Oh, crying out loud. It's handy. I'll say that. It's handy when you're trying to prop something up.
It's a monitor raising device. I think Paul's got it right.
When you're trying to prop something up or keep a door open, they're handy, I'll grant you. But there again, we do have door stops and that's about as much use. But there you go. It happened. So what have Notion been up to? Well, Automate.io is a service that sprung up. It wasn't dedicated to Notion. It was all about automation. And Notion have bought them. So they are the people, Automate, that came out with like automations that integrated with the Notion API. But if you remember when the Notion API came out, we were all like, we want Notion API, we want Notion API. And then it came out, it's like, oh dear, that's not what we wanted. What we wanted was actually integrations that were really simple. So with the Notion API, you've got to glue things together yourself. And what I actually wanted was more like ZenKit have got, which is they have integrations and they just work. Oh, that was fantastic. And that has been working for the last 5 years. But Notion less so. So what they've done is they've bought Automate, which is potentially good news to us. So if we think of Automate as the glue that hangs our automation together, holds the automations together. So you could have Google Calendar on one side of an Automate IO integration and Notion on the other, then it's what holds it all together. The thing with it is, as you can see, it's used by lots of companies and it can do all kinds of magic. But you still have to know what it is you're trying to achieve. And then you have to go away and you have to build this thing. But as I said, it's more than Notion, so it would enable Notion to integrate with any of the other services that the thing supported. So it's probably good news, but I think we'd have to file it as potentially good news rather than being imminent good news, because they're going to need to work out how they intend to do it. And what I mean by that is, if Notion own it, then they could just include some of the automations. But given what they did with the timeline feature, remember when they had different blocks, one of the blocks was a timeline, and they said you can have 3 of them and that's it. And you're like, pardon? And that's on the business account that we're paying for. You can only have 3. I think it's 5 on the business account if you've got 2 people, and 3 on the free account, which to me, if I'm paying, I just want them. So my first thought was, I wonder what they'll do, because at the moment, it's a paid for thing. So there is a free account, but you've only got 5 bots. And bots are the things that are sitting in the background doing the automations. You've got 300 actions a month. I don't think if I was only using it for my calendars, I'd probably go over that. I honestly don't know. But the thing that struck me was, as we looked at it, one team member. And I kept going and I thought, you're kidding me. I was through personal and professional and startup, and I got to growth. I can have 3 team members on growth. $79 a month. Yeah, that's not happening. Notion doesn't cost that. So I thought at the kind of personal end, they could do something for 2 team members, but no. So that's pretty expensive at the moment, and that's with 20% off if you pay yearly. So I don't know what they'll do with it, but I foresee it'll take some time. Whether they're buying it as a service that they can provide, so this income would then go to Notion, I honestly don't know. Or whether they would intend to take some of the automation features and put it inside Notion for free. Who knows? I don't know. I'm wondering if they know. But we'll find out down the line. I just think the way they've gone on with the automation is not actually ideal. And it's got me to the conclusion that I'm like, the only thing that I would really like is the integration from MacBites to the calendar, and that would be it. Anything beyond that, I don't think I'd be prepared to pay for anyway. So we'll see what happens with it. But in addition to all of that, Notion have added some tweaks to it. And I think they're not making that much of a song and dance about them because they really are tiny. But some of them are incredibly useful. So let's go and have a look at what we've got. So somewhere here I'm going to need a page with Notion open. That'd be a good start, wouldn't it? Right, shall we go into there? Let's go into there. Right, so let's go into Notion. Oh, I wonder what page we'll get. Oh, Brooklands, handy. Right, I just need a page, so any page would do. So if I do my let's add a page, and then we can get rid of those. Right, some of the stuff is all a bit weird in terms of... Oh, I can't have that turned off and turned on there. That's not good, is it? Wondering how I'm going to see what I want here now. Right, you will remember from last week that we made a table. So let's make a table. And we will have a demo table. And we will add a column to it. Only what we'll do is we'll put in a URL. And we will put URL there. So if you remember what had happened last week, let's say we've got a MacBites. We don't need a tag, but we'll put in a URL of MacBites. And we were saying that we have the ability in here, or we used to, where you clicked and you could edit it. But now if you click it, it actually goes out to MacBites. So that was a change for a start. But we also acquired this little edit URL option in here, where we can now go in and edit it. Okay, so you can also open this up. And the same thing happens. So clicking on that will open it for you. And last time we looked at this, honestly, you blink and they've changed something. Last time we looked at this, there was one button on the right-hand side that enabled you to edit the URL. So they were working on the principle that once if you've created a URL field, the odds are you're going to want to click the URL and visit it more than edit it. And to be honest, they're quite right. Used to drive me insane, because if I'm working full width and I'm going all the way across a field and I've got to get to over here to visit the site, it's just annoying. Okay. So they added the ability to click and visit it, and they added a pencil at this end, and that enabled you to edit it. And I think that's the best way round. But you'll notice if I hover now, instead of one button, we've now got 2. This is good news, because the other thing that I would want to do with a URL is copy it. And at the moment, the default behaviour is click and you'll visit it. Don't want that. You could click to edit it, then you'd have to select it, and then you'd have to copy it. So it's multiple steps. So to add in this copy to clipboard, oh, that's good. That is good. So they have actually listened and they have added that. Why it took so long, I have no idea, I can assure you. Now, I am going to have to go over to here and find the right page, because I had a page that I needed. That's right. Okay, let me go through the other stuff that they put that is new, some of which you'll see there. Right, you can make a template. So let's get rid of that. A template So if we look at this, let's say I just want to put like show numbers. So we did 145 the other day. Right, the below the fold area, you can make templates, and that's why this says create a template. What you can do there is exactly the same as what you can do up here with new on the drop down. You can add a template. Those two features do exactly the same. So let's add a template, and it tells you that you're editing a template. You give the template a name in here. So if I wanted this to be for a podcast, you can put in some tags, so you've got stuff there to start with. So if it's a podcast, then that might be MacBites instead of MacBites After Hours. And I could even put the URL in there at this point. Why did you not take that? Come on, MacBites. That's better. Right, I could put the URL in there. And everything that I do in here will already be pre-populated when I create another one of these. So if we leave it like that, and come out of this, you've now got the option that if you go in here and just say open it, it looks different. Whereas before it said make a template, now it says, right, you can make a template, you can have an empty page, or you can have a podcast. So if I click on podcast, you can see it populates these two fields here, because that's come from the template. Nothing down here because I didn't add anything, but that's what it actually does. So let's make that MacBites 146, not next Tuesday and next Monday. Right, okay. So that's what that can do. But if we go back into the template, you've got an option to create a new one or change this one. So I'm going to edit that podcast template. I'm going to put some stuff underneath. So what we tend to do is we have admin notes, we have show links, I think we call it show notes, and then we have research that we do, so research notes. Okay, so we put those things down there, but we format them. Why are you doing that? Now it's changing, crying out loud. Sometimes the shortcuts work and sometimes they don't. So what I'm trying to do is format them as heading 1. Then in here, we then colour them. So the first one is red, the second one is green, and the bottom one is black. And that's what they look like. But we go further than that, and we actually put a first bullet point in for each one. So there's always something there. And that one should be green. So why aren't you going green? Come on, there we go, that's green, and that one's red. Okay, and the bottom one is black, so that just gets a bullet point. So now I've got stuff below the fold. Right, to prove that that works, I can just click away, go back, make a new podcast, and it's thinking about it, and it loads the stuff in at the bottom. And then I would put, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, aren't we? MacBites 147. Right, so the new thing that they've added is dynamic today and now mentions in a database, which sounds thrilling, you know, but it is actually quite useful. So if you were going to put in here, after hours 0145, and you made that with an empty page, and you wanted to put something in there, you'd have to do it at the point you created it. But what they're allowing you to do is, if you go into your, we'll do the podcast one. We won't create one, we will edit it. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to edit this. So let's say I wanted at the bottom metadata, which I think is one word, isn't it? Right. And down there, I would like when it was created. Not in part of the field, but actually in the text here. Right, well, what you can do is you can, when you're doing this, you can now just put at today or at now. So let's put in there at now. And when you do that, you get today's date. And well, you get today and you get a time. Okay, so if we do that again so you can see it, and we do a now, you've got two options now. You could press enter and that would put in today's here. But you've also got the option to say now the time when duplicated. So if I wait a few seconds so it goes to 21:13.7, when I put this in, this should work. In fact, no, it should work anyway. Right, so let's put that in. So we've got created, let's move that down. And this one's going to be created by the template. Okay, this one was when the template was created. So that one shouldn't change. So we'll come out of that. We are now at 21:37. So if I go back in and do this, fingers crossed. There we go. That's interesting. Why is one saying GMT? Well, it works. Maybe there's some formatting options that we can do here. It doesn't look like it. Oh, naughty, naughty. They're going to have to fix that, aren't they? But the idea is, I mean, obviously there's only like a minute between them and that isn't displaying properly anyway. But the idea is that you can put today and now in a template, and when you use it, it will automatically update. So that's the idea of having it in there. That's completely new, not had that option before. Why they don't fix the display of it is a totally different business, but I'll find out. Let's see if we can do anything. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is there is a whole raft of new emojis and page icons, which I happen to have up here. So these are the ones that are supported. So in the first one, we have emoji version 12. Now it does say released in 2019, but these are the ones that it's assuring us that are now available that we can use. So some of these are going back a couple of years. They are the standard ones. So anything that you want to use here, you can use. These ones were more useful, I thought, than some of the ones that they put in later. I'm wondering with these whether Apple put all of these in or not. I do remember a guide dog coming in, but I don't remember all of these that look so different because it would just overwhelm an iPhone. But these are all the things you've got. I think a safety vest might come in handy for me. The shorts less so. But I don't think all of Apple's have these, but I like these ones at the bottom. I think these are very useful for using in here. Template, will it change the template for previously created pages? No, it doesn't. What you can do with that, and we do that, there's a dirty hack for that, Kim. If you have a template and you update it and you want to apply that template retrospectively, there is a way to do it depending on what information you have below the fold. So here's what we do. I might be updating, or I might create a show for After Hours 3 weeks from now. But I'm very mindful of the fact that 3 weeks from now, I might have made three changes to that template that I consider to be critical. And I don't want to be handling a rota of maybe 6 shows, all with slightly different below the folds. So what I do is I have 2 different templates. Let's see if we can have a look at them. Where would we see those? Just have a look at MacBites and seeing how we could see them. Let's have a look at one in hand and see if it's there. I can show you the principle of it on MacBites After Hours 149. So let's bring that on. So bringing on another page. Right, so this is our MacBites stuff. I already have, good grief, 8th of October, show 149. And what's below the fold is what we would use right now. So this is what below the fold looks like now. But if I needed to make some changes to it, then what I ensure that I do is that I can literally just copy that and delete it. And anything that was in there is not lost because it pulled in from other databases. To enable what you're talking about, I have 2 templates for MacBites. I have MacBites and content items only, and I have After Hours and After Hours content items only. And what I mean with this contents only is the MacBites and the After Hours are the full thing as it is today. But because I can't retrofit them, updating them does not update everything that was based on them. I created these 2 content items only. So with that as a template, I can carry on. I can do the basics of what I need. So I could access the comms for that show, which is under here. I would click that and I would generate the comms for that show. But once I've generated them, they will go into this table. And this table is a linked table with a filter on it. So if I were to come in here and delete that, it wouldn't delete the comms because they actually live in another table. This is the option to add the standard show sections. Same story. When you've created them, they move into this content items table. So let's say I add in demo content item. Right. This is not the full template for this show. It's not. It's not got the links to the show. It's not got the embedded video. It's got so much missing. But I can just select it and delete it. Now you might be thinking, oh, but that demo content item is going to vanish. No, it's not. It's not. So I'm just going to delete it. And to get that, I need to delete that last line. There is a line there. Come on, where you go. Let's delete that. So there's nothing there. And this time I say the full after hours template. And it's set up in such a way that it knows which show, so the one on the 8th of October, it pulls everything in. And as I go down, here's all the stuff that was missing. I've got the summary and the link to the sheet, the whole lot. And down here, I do have the demo content item. So that's what I do. Okay. So that's how you do it. The best advice would be to have 2 templates, one of which only has the absolute basics in it, and the other one, the full one. But there are shows, if I go back 50 shows, it would look nothing like it looks now, and you can't really do much with that, because some of this stuff is embedded in here. This is embedded, these are embedded, this table's embedded, this is embedded. So I can't really do much with that in terms of updating it unless I do it all by hand, which I don't want to do. But that's how I keep it as flexible as possible for as long as possible. So let's get that one out of the way and get back. So that was the 2012 list. These ones most useful as far as I'm concerned. Then there was a 12.1. And again, they've got like people with different coloured hair, different coloured skin tones, bald people, either way. I don't think the people one's going to be that much use, but you never know. But all of these are now supported, as is 13.1 and 13. So this one was 13. Now, some of these weren't even coming through here. So I don't know what's going on with that, like lungs and a ninja and an anatomical heart. But they are supported now in Notion. So if you want to use them, they are. Like person feeding a baby. And a mammoth, that might be handy. Lola would like the polar bear. But half of them aren't even coming through to here. And then there was 13.1, which was like multiple ones added together. But all of these are supported by Notion. So they're making a big fuss of it. I think Johnny might have slipped off to bed. leave him in peace. Okay, what else did we have that they had added as new? Right, they made a big fuss with the... where's it gone? Copying the database properties. So we've seen the database properties in here, this copying going on with the edit button. And when we open this up, we have the ability to copy. That's a URL field. But that is also supported in other things as well. So if we were to add in here, let's say a title for the show, that's just a text property. So we'll add that and we'll add the created time. So you can do this by choosing from the options in here, created time in there. And what else shall we put? Let's put a number in. Let's say show number, but I wouldn't do it this way. It doesn't need to be a number because I'm not calculating with it, but let's put a number. Right, reason I'm doing that, so the show number there would be 146. And the title of 146, we haven't got a clue, so that's pending at the moment. But just like these, where you've got the option to edit it or copy it, as you hover over here, you now have the option to copy on all of these. So it is a nice thing to add. You've also got in here where you can change the number, what format the number actually is. It's never the one I want. They've not added that yet. But you can copy them all to the clipboard. So that is pervasive. It's not just on the URL field. But that's, I think, where it's going to be most useful. But there it is. What else did they add? They're talking about the URL in the database, which is here, meaning that you can click it and it will open the URL. And this is something I can't particularly show you, but it's there, which is, as I'm navigating on this computer, if I were to then go to my iPad, the recent pages that I'd got on here wouldn't necessarily be the recent pages on that device. But what they've done now is the recently visited sync properly across all devices. So that's something that they've actually added. And the other thing that they've done is put extra stuff in the quote block. So if you've got a quote like, what was that Jobsy quote? Oh, I know, the seagulls and the trawler. That's a good one. The seagulls and the trawler, which was Eric's quote. And you want that to be a quote. You can change it to a quote like that. Let's get the text and put it in. And you can, in here, use more formatting. So if I wanted to format that, I could format it with images, bullets, whatever you wanted to do inside a quote block. So if I wanted that to be italic and I wanted it bold, you can do it inside the quote block. So it's basically giving you more formatting inside the quote block, which is just replicating what they did with the call out a while ago.
Patricia wants to know if those work in Scrivener.
Which, the icons?
I'm guessing the icons, yeah.
If you can get hold of them, yes. So if they're not supported on the Mac, if you want to put something in, it is Control, Option and Spacebar. No, Control, Command and Spacebar. And it brings this up. So anything that's available in here, you can use anywhere you like. Now, obviously in Scrivener, there's two things at play in Scrivener. You can actually put this in as part of your text, but if you want to use it in the actual icon, then you're going to have to get it out of here, get it somewhere else, and then get it into Scrivener, because it doesn't actually support just choosing the icon. It has its own range of icons, but you can add to them. So yes, it can be done, but it's not as simple as it would be in here. Right, so when they brought in these blocks, these call-out blocks, they were fairly basic. You could just type some text and that was it. But they've added the ability to add other elements. So if I wanted to go down here and, let me put a bullet point in. I'm not seeing a bullet point. You are not converting to a bullet point. But they added options with that maybe you have to drag and drop them in. Let's drag and drop the quote. Did it keep it if you drag and dropped it in? There you go. Normally what that would do is it would just nuke that to be plain text. So you might have to do it outside, like that is now a bullet point, and then drag it in, but it retains the block type that it had, and it's nested the block inside the call-out block. And that's in essence what they've done with the quote block. So they are actually working on things that are more nuanced than the big stuff that they add. Half of it doesn't work and the other half you're not interested in. These are the kind of little improvements. I'll give you a little improvement I would love here, all right? And it's not there yet. But if I wanted these to be blue and I wanted that to be red, maybe I want them all to be the same colour, doesn't matter. I would like to be able to select them and use the /. Don't know if you can hear that, nothing's happening. If I wanted all of those to be a specific colour, so let's say red, I can do that, but I can't easily, other than at the end, one at a time, change that to what I want it to be. And I would love the opportunity to do that. That would be fantastic. So I can do it individually, but not, I have to actually go into the text. I can't just hover on the outside and do it. It doesn't work. Very, very annoying. Okay, what else did we have in there? No, I think that was it. So they're very tiny, but they're the kind of thing that, it's not the big thing that you do once every month. Maybe you do a backup. It's the things that you use every day that they're concentrating on, and I actually think that that is a really good idea. Okay, so let's get rid of that, and let's go back in here. Oh, Pitch. Who remembers Pitch? We looked at it last November, and it was an online service for creating presentations. and we liked it. It was rather nice. So it's got that, when we looked at it, we were using it in a browser, and it's got that kind of, it's still Web 2.0, or are we on to like Web 22.0?
I have no idea. I've lost count.
It's got that kind of look to it, as like Fisher-Price designed the interface. Big and lots of space, like we're all 3 years of age. But it does make very good presentations. And the good news is that the free account is actually usable. So we tried it with a free account. And looks like with this app, you can move between accounts as well, which is handy, because I realised as I went looking for my account to log in that I hadn't created an account for me. I'd created a MacBites one. So the difference this time is what they've done is, instead of using the thing in a browser, they've brought an app to the desktop. So luckily we created some presentations last time, so we can go and have a look at them. Okay, so I did log in. That was a bit of a faff. With your account, you don't have a password. I hate that. I want a password. Give it to me now. This was a presentation that we made, but I will go into that. So we'll come out of that and we'll look at the homepage. But what they do, web services don't want to be managing your passwords because they might get hacked. So what they do is you try to log in with your email address and they send you a number to get in. Which was fine, only I got 3 numbers, didn't know which one was active, and it took me like 10 minutes. So I was glad that I logged in before the actual demo, because bad words would have been said. So I got logged in. But if you're thinking you can't find your password, no, you won't find your password because there isn't one. In a browser, it does look fairly similar to this, but this is an app on your desktop. It gives you access to exactly the same things. So I'm here in the MacBites account, but you can add different workspaces. So you could create different workspaces for different people that you're working with. We had a private folder for MacBites Podcasts, and I don't think I shared any of the presentations that we created. But what we're actually looking at here is the home base, so your dashboard, for the MacBites account. And we created some templates. So we did an untitled one. This one, the pitch power user, was already included, as were these two at the bottom. So the presentation that we actually created was this David Allen's Getting Things Done thing. So let's go in and have a look at that. When you go in and you create a presentation, I think we used a template. So if I just whip back into here, there's templates across the top. You could start with a blank one, or you can start with one that's actually got both a look and feel to it and or content if you want. And there's a whole range of templates. So let's see, I think we used something like this pitchboard one or something like that with that David Allen one. But these are the things that you've got. So it's a great place to start for good looking presentations. I think the templates are far better than you would get with PowerPoint or Keynote. Would I use this on a weekly basis? Probably not, if I'm honest. It's probably not going to be fast enough for me. I was still putting slides together at 8:45. So can't wait for it to upload. Not good. But this is how you would go about and create it. So what do we have there? A virtual offsite what? Oh, no idea. Should we find a design proposal or something like that? Or brand guidelines? So all you need to do with this, it tells you how many slides are in it. And you can click on it and it gives you a preview. Only now this is happening on your desktop rather than you being in a browser, stressing your poor browser. So what it does is it shows you all of the contents of the template. So over here, and I do believe this was the one we used, there is the opening slide, and then you've got the brand guidelines introduction, but you've also got this brand guidelines. So you could choose between these two. And you can see as you hover and click, you get a bigger preview of each one. This is a section, and this is a section, and this is a section. So they're giving you options to choose either one of these for consistency or go for different ones. And I do believe we went for that one. And you can scroll down and get all of these. Now, you don't have to use them all if you don't want to, or you could use them and then delete the ones you don't want, which I do believe was the way that we went. So all you need to do to create it is actually create the presentation, and that takes you in here. Although you've said, make me a presentation based on that template, you still have the option at this stage to say which ones you want. So as you hover over these, it actually shows you behind there that you would be adding that. So you could go through these by hand. You could say, I prefer that dark one there. So you could click on that and add that. Or you could add that one, whichever you think for the title. Then you've got 3 to choose from for the section. And we clearly went for that one. Your other option, because you can always delete stuff after you've added it, is to just add all 29 slides. And now it appears and it looks just like Keynote or PowerPoint. But you also have the option here to change stuff like the slide style. So did you want it to be dark for this one? Or maybe light? Or you can create a new style. Or you can just change the background colour if you wanted something else. So I don't think green's not going to look good with it, is it? But let's do it anyway, because we can. So it's very flexible. It is very flexible. So let's get back to the presentation that we did about GTD. So this was what we did with the cover. I think we brought that in ourselves. And the beauty of this app, although, like I say, interface, it's the gap of it that gets me. It looks like a touch interface to me. It really does, because there's just so much of a gap around each tool, which means I can squeeze fewer tools on there. If you think about Scrivener and how many tools there are available, I would much rather have the tools available if I want them, rather than have big almighty buttons with a massive gap around them. But that seems to be the way that people are designing these days. Like when you get old and the policemen look too young. It's a bit like the designers are too young, aren't they? They're still in kindergarten, and that's why it looks like it's Fisher Price. But it does actually work in terms of, I've got this image and I've brought it in. When I click on it, I do get buttery smooth options when it comes to scaling it. So this is really nice. And when I move it around, you can see I get the lines to indicate to me that that is actually centered. And it really does twang to it. We've all discussed how Affinity Design is fantastic, but honestly, its alignment, it's too subtle. It needs to twang more. But in here, you also have, as soon as you click on it, you've got the option to replace it or add a shadow to it. What kind of shadow would you like? So let's say that one. And that should have put it behind it. I think we can just about see it. You've also got the ability to crop it. So if you needed it a little bit smaller, you could do that. The shapes themselves, and we'll look at that when we come on to shapes, but everything that you click on, you get these pop-up menus where you can actually work with it. So I must admit, it is a really, really nice app. And the only thing that puts me off is the speed that I need to work with presentations and how many slides I need to put in there. I should probably have a challenge and do it one week, shouldn't I? But bad words would be said, so let's leave it alone. But I might do a presentation in here. We'll see. So moving on, we've got some text in there. And again, as soon as you click it, everything that you could do with that, it knows it's a title. You've got different styles in there and you can add styles. You can update the style or reset the style. So it is a style. We've got text colour in there, you've got the size in there, all the things that you would expect, alignment, bold, italic, and so forth. If you want more detail, you click on the 3 dots, and that gives you an entire panel over on the right-hand side to work with, which again is very similar to Keynote and PowerPoint. They both look like that. I put in some bullet points, but they weren't exactly bullet points, were they? But I did put some things in. These were the sections that I put in, and I chose the orange one in the background. But obviously down here, you have got other templates if you want to choose it. So if you think, you know what, that might look better like that, you can add that in and then just change it. If you want to delete it, I just press the backspace key and it was deleted. Right, you've also got the ability in here. We brought this in as an image and said it didn't look great, So what we could do with it, if you haven't got time, you could use these options. Sometimes they improve it, sometimes they don't. You never know. But it doesn't exactly look great. So what we did was we recreated it in here, or we recreated part of it. And each one of these is just a shape. And it has a fill and it had a stroke. And you could change all of those. So if you wanted certain ones to have an orange outline, you can do that. So these are just formatting that particular shape. Again, over there, once you've got a shape selected, this panel over on the right then changes to all the things that you might want to do with a particular shape. So, for instance, the width of that stroke, you could change that and then you would see it far easier. And we've got arrows between, linking them. And we've got arrows in there that we put some text on over here. So it is very, very capable. Very capable. I do believe we pulled him from one of the libraries of images that were included, and we liked him. Do you remember Mayer when he saw that dog with a cravat on? He went absolutely mental. We also had this chart in here. Now, I think we stripped everything off this chart. But the chart that's in here, it's styled by pitch. And when you go into it, it's editable. You can carry on doing whatever you need to do with it. So at the moment, this is a pie chart, but you can display the same data in different ways. So if we wanted to do it in a different way, let's go back to our pie chart. The other thing that is most useful is editing the data. And again, it's a really nice way to edit the data. So if we said in there, success, we make that 5% and we change, hang on, 0.5. Okay, 0.05, that's better, 0.05. That should total 100. There we go, and here they are at the top.
Question.
Yep.
Is the section key on a MacBook keyboard?
As far as I know, yeah.
Right.
Section key is next to the 1 key.
Yeah, that's what I've said.
Yep, it should be.
Maybe it's different in Spain.
Oh, it might be in Spain. There's all kinds of stuff. I saw, was it a French keyboard the other day? And I'm like, what the A doing there? It was really different. So it could well be. I use the section key all the time in Typinator. Basically because it's a key that I don't use for anything else. Does anybody else use the section key for anything else? I've never typed it.
No, I use it in Typinator.
Yeah, I've never typed it to do anything with it. But, you know, it's still there, isn't it? So editing the data, very, very nice. You can also replace the data if you want. And the data can come from you uploading it with the CSV, a Google Sheet, anything from Google Analytics, or something ChartMogul, which I don't use anyway. If your sheet, because I love the fact it works with Google Sheets, but if your sheet is coming from Excel, then you'd need to export it as a CSV first, but it would work with the same data. So that would enable you to totally change the data. But to edit the data, you don't need to re-import it. You can just go in here and add whatever you need to add. Then you've got the options. So at the moment, that doesn't tell us much because we haven't got the value labels on, nor the categories. I think for this to work, we'd need to put all of that on. So both the percentage. Yeah, I guess you don't need the percentage if it's like blindingly obvious. But if it's close, then it's probably worth putting it on. But just different ways to format this particular chart. You've also got over here with the chart selected, you've got all of the access to the chart information as well. So we could make that like semi-transparent and all kinds of stuff. What else did we have in here? We had tables, so you can add tables, and I think this is nicer than PowerPoint and Keynote, which is like, oh yeah, the tables, and they kind of added it on later. What I use tables for, I don't use tables often, but I use them for layout like this. So there is a table, but you can barely see it, and it's the full size of the slide, and I'm just using it for layout and nothing else. And you've got all of the standard options in terms of adding new slides. So when you try and add a new slide, it knows which template you use, this brand guidelines. And for consistency's sake, it would let you choose from in there. So if you wanted to add, oh, what have we got? Like something like that, where you've got these blocks and you add the colour and then put the text in it, you can do that. So I actually think Pitch is really good. Now it's on the desktop. I would have a few questions about it. In terms of, let's get a Finder window. One of my questions would be, if I had an image, so what have I got that's small enough? I know, we'll use that Appley image. Can I drag that and drop it in? Now that's the speed I need, where I drag and drop it in. So with something like this, I'd probably want that at the top. So one of the things I'd be thinking is, if I drag that to the top corner, does it snap? Yes, it does. Can I easily drag that down and fill the slide? Yes. And I'm off to the races. So it could, because it's on the desktop and I can drag and drop things into it, that makes it a much better bet for me to do that. However, I do think there's a chance. Can I easily get a blank one in as well? Go back the other way. I can do all of that, but where's the blank one? Oh, there we go. No, that's not a blank one. That's full of layout. Is that a blank one? Kind of. Is that in the background? Background image. No, I don't particularly want to use it as a background. I just want to actually get rid of it. There we go. Right. So if I had an image that I wanted to add from my desktop, I can foresee there would be issues with some of these images. So let's get the one of Lola and a dog. That's a goose or a swan. What do you know? It's got feathers. She doesn't care. Neither do I. So let's get hold of that. And there it is. But you'll see it's a HEIC, which is high efficiency. And as expected, doesn't support it. That annoys me. The other one that supports me, that annoys me, is this one, WebP. Doesn't like that either. Can people please stop using WebP? Because you can barely open it in anything. So unfortunately in here, yes, you can drag and drop images, but they're going to have to be in a certain format. Would it choke if it was a big image? Don't know. Let's find out. That was not taken at that size. That is a full page. And this is Zapier integration. And I can rescale this easier in PowerPoint and Keynote because I'm hitting the top of the screen and it won't let me go anymore. Whereas in PowerPoint and Keynote, it does. I'm trying to get that to the right width. And that's going to take me about 8 to 10 mouse clicks and drags to do. And if I put it over here, I can't do it because if I do this, it's going to drag it off. Not good. That happens to me all the time, but that's because of the images that I want to put on it. So I think if you want standard images, well, let's get rid of that. Standard images like this one, standard in format and standard in size, it's going to be fine with. But some of the images I have to work with are not in a format that it approves of. Another thing that I would have an issue with is something like, let's take this image. Right, I can get that. If I scale this up, I can get it to there, and I can scale it up and get it to there. That's probably how I'd want that displayed. But annoyingly, you've got this bit overhanging at the top. So it doesn't actually fit the slide. You can in here take that down, but that's actually squashing up the entire image. And you don't want that either. It won't show if you leave it overhanging, but personally, I'd like the ability to size that, which is what I do in PowerPoint and Keynote. PowerPoint is easier to do that. So you could crop it, but I can't now see it. So I'd have to have, how on earth would you try and crop it when you don't know how much you need to crop? Because to see it, can we drag it up? No, it doesn't want to know it's already cropped stuff to fit on. This is not good. Not good at all. I'm guessing. There's no sizing or anything there. So I'd be guessing that's not good. So that's not how it works in the others. So I haven't guessed well, if you see. I can get away with it, but it's not right. But at least it took that image in. But it's not as nice as having the PowerPoint and Keynote stuff, the full app's on the desktop. But maybe they'll add that kind of stuff. My concern with apps like this is that what they're interested in is stuff that I am not interested in, like reactions and sharing stuff, because I don't collaborate on presentations that often, if at all. But if you remember, they did have the ability, which does it, have they taken it away? Or have they turned it into reactions? Oh, joy, look at that. Shall I clap myself? It makes great sense if you're collaborating, but it makes no sense at all if you're not collaborating, is the issue. I thought this was the one that had the traffic lights on it, which as a system I use myself. So whereas I actually put dots of different colours on there, this enabled you over here. Yeah, there's the traffic lights. So that one's got a green one on it. There it is. They've moved it. Used to be down the bottom. This one is in progress. So let's say that one. We go here. You have no status, which is the default. You can mark it as to do. You can mark it as in progress, or you can mark it as done. Now, they use different shapes. I just use a single circle in different colours. But that is actually really useful because it means you've got that information next to it, but it doesn't appear when you're presenting it. With mine, I have to delete them, which, you should be finished. So you shouldn't stumble across one anyway. There, as soon as I've finished, you can either make it go green or you can get rid of it, and I get rid of it. But that feature I really like. I do wish PowerPoint and Keynote would put that in there. Absolutely. So that is the Pitch app. So for the full demo of Pitch, it was back in November. Maybe you can find the date, Mike, and the link. But this is the app that's come to desktop, which makes it a little bit easier. It should technically be faster. Your stuff is still in the cloud. It's still available through the website, through a browser. But it just gives you, it should be a little bit faster, and it should be easier to access your content, particularly images. But it still has the problem of the limited file formats that it supports. So PowerPoint and Keynote both support high efficiency. Nothing supports WebP. Nothing. Well, no, that's a lie. Affinity Photo does, but that's it. Nothing else does.
It was after hours 100.
Oh, it was 100. I remember that celebration. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And let's head into here. Oh, build with me Vivaldi. How you doing, Kim? Let me know. Let me know.
Better than me, I suspect.
How are you doing?
Same as last time.
You've not investigated anything then?
Don't think I have.
I think he's gone back to Chrome. Right, we are building Vivaldi. So in the first week, we did the onboarding and imported data if needed. And the tab positions, mine are still on the left. I'm actually warming to the idea of not having tabs at all. It's a long story. The speed dial, love my speed dial, and tiling tabs, which is just fabulous. I wouldn't get half as much done if I weren't tiling tabs. Then in the second week, we looked at themes and the bulb integration. We've had a lot of fun with Hue bulbs in the last couple of weeks. Also, we looked at all the address bar could do, and QR codes, and reader view. So, what did we do? That was last time, wasn't it? Right, so going on to part 4, and it's all of the tweaks. So some of these, they're important to me. They might not be important to you. We'll find out. So I do have some tweaks here. I've just got a window. Doesn't matter where we are for this. But that is how I'm using it right now. So that is my full setup for this. If we get a new tab, we played around with speed dial, so I just made another speed dial. So that's why we're looking at the speed dial. But that is how I am using it right now. You should see one change to last week. Shall I give you a second? It's a bit tricky, actually. But if we just do a quick roundup of what we've got. I have the tabs on the left, but I also have the ability to very quickly toggle the tabs off. The only wish I would have for the tabs is if I toggle them off in one window, that does not necessarily mean I want them toggled off in the other. But I like sometimes to have a very minimal browser. So I can go to my blog and it just looks like an app because there's no navigation anywhere at all. But I can very quickly bring it all back. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'd toggled on and off the address bar, the tabs, the panel, and the status bar. So the couple of tweaks to get started with. We looked at the web panels last week. And I'm just going to whip that off there and do something with it. So it looks like yours. There we go. So I moved the panels from the left to the right. And that left me with one problem. It wasn't a huge problem for me, but initially these tabs or panels are on the left and there is a button down here. I know it's really tiny, but it's the one in the corner there. That actually toggles those panels on and off. I never use it. I never need it. because I have a shortcut key. But it seems silly to have this over there when the panels are now on the right. And you could click and drag. It doesn't move. None of these move. So this one here, that goes to break mode. We'll have a look at break mode. But these buttons, they don't move if you drag them. You can click them, but that's it. But the shift key is your friend. So if I hold the shift key down, in fact, that's going to give me grief at the moment because I have an app called Dropover and that also works on the shift key. So I am going to quit that before it gets upset with its little self. Right, so hold the shift key down and drag that button and you actually drag it off. You could put that up at the top. You could put that all over the place, but the place I would think it would make most sense is down in this corner, which is tricky to drag to. So you should see an orange bar, but to get it in this corner is tricky. I don't see the orange bar. So I would drag it as near as I could get it, which is there, and then holding the shift key down again. Oh, you're not moving. How on earth did I do it? Maybe I got rid of the zoom. Because you can toggle these things on and off. So maybe I got rid of that. But I put that in the actual corner. One thing I tried was to take it up so I wasn't in the corner of the screen. Let's see if that works any better. No, it doesn't like it. I must have moved that. But I'm holding the shift key down to move that. It doesn't like it. So I will go into here and we will find the zoom because we know how many options are in here. Right. It will either be in fact it should be in there. Use the tab zoom, reset. No, we don't want any of that. Let's try status bar. Right, show the status bar. I wonder if I did that. Let's have a look what that does. Right, let's see if I can do it now. Right, so the button that I'm looking for, come on, back you come, is this one here. Toggling on and off. Let's see if it'll play ball now. It will. There we go. So that's what I did with it. So that now makes sense that it's on the right side. I never use it, but that's not the point. It didn't make sense where it was. So that's one thing. And the thing is, you can do that all over the place with other buttons. So for instance, this one here is the button that lets you capture pages or parts of pages. But if that's the only button I ever want to use from the status bar, it seems silly to have the status bar open just to use that. Shift key, and you can drag that somewhere more useful. So up there, don't think it can go at that end, but it can go there. And that way I can toggle that status bar off and I don't have to bring it back just to take a screen capture. Did we do screen captures? I can't remember if we did or not. Possibly. Between the time and the percentage bar, it just works. Goes slow. It wasn't working for me, trust me. That's how I did it. Interestingly, something that I have done, so if we bring that back, this bit up here, I wouldn't have that there. So let's drag that back down here, where it was. But the time and clock thing, I wasn't bothered with. It was like, why would I be bothered with that? Why? But then I realised it's actually really useful. So it's not just a clock. It actually does breaks and things. So you'll see I've got Pomodoro and a break. Oh, Carol moved a screenshot icon after seeing the 30 for 30 post. Yay! I think that's one that because most of the stuff in here I probably wouldn't use, but that one, yes. But I actually do that a different way. So we'll have a look at the clock, we'll have a look at the screen capture, and then we'll have a look at doing it in a way that's just amazing. So I thought with this, waste of time. Why would I want that? But when I came round to it, it was like, actually, that's quite interesting. I assumed this would work best when you have it full screen, because if you have it full screen, you can't see your system clock. But I thought, why on earth would I want to see another clock when I've got a system clock. Then I realised you can add the date to it, which I've done. And you can add the seconds to it, which I've done. And then I thought, oh, this actually has a lot of use. And the reason is you can set an alarm. So this is where you set a certain time. So you specify a time. So say I put in there 22:30 today. And let's say, although I don't think we're going to be done by then, Mike's going to do his Excel bit. Excel LAMBDA. Right. And then I can start, and it will start a countdown to that. So you can see it's orange. It's telling you there's an alarm coming up, and it's going to be 12:30, 10:30. Now, we're not going to see it because I've got my notifications turned off. But you can see that it's there and it's running. Yeah, that's actually going. Right, so that's the one thing that it can do. You'll see in here there's an alarm there, and that's on, and that's on, and you're saying start. But you can also get rid of these as well. So it remembers them, but you can get rid of them. Some of them you can have as presets. So lunch and a meeting you can have as a preset if you want. Now, I don't particularly need lunch or a meeting. I'm probably more likely for the start of a program, something like that. But where I did find this to be really useful is in the countdown, because in the countdown, the difference is instead of setting a specific time, you do a countdown, like a Pomodoro. So 2 of my pre-configurations here are a Pomodoro break of 25 minutes, well, a Pomodoro of 25 minutes and a break of 5 minutes. Oh, Patricia's clicked the countdown and can't get it back. What are you seeing? Are you not seeing the interface? It might all become clear as we carry on, so fingers crossed, hey? But if it's disappeared from the status bar, reset the status bar and it should pop back. Right, also in here, so these Pomodoros, right, how the Pomodoro works, it's a countdown. So what the difference between a countdown and an alarm is, with an alarm you're giving it a specific time, and with a countdown you're saying X number of minutes or hours from now. So a Pomodoro is 25 minutes. So the reason that I've got these in here and they've got the cross on is that these are saved as a preset. You can always put them back, so hang on, Patricia. Right, with the Pomodoro, all you need to do is click it, and that loads in to the bottom half, the 0 hours and 25 minutes, and it has the name of Pomodoro. But while the Pomodoro and the break were there to start with, they didn't have the little tomato or the battery icon. I put those there because I like them. And that will make more sense when I show you what I actually did with the whole thing. But a Pomodoro, you then just start that and it starts counting down. So it tells you it's 24 minutes and some seconds and you're in the middle of a Pomodoro. So it puts the name next to it. You can, of course, go in there and totally change your mind because it's this bit here and you just turn it off. But because you've saved it as a preset, it's available for you in the future. So if I then wanted a break afterwards, I can start a break and it tells me it's a break and it's got the little icon. Loving that. Loving that. So let's stop the break. But in here, if the unthinkable happens and you've taken that this one at the bottom is how to get rid of it, so there's a cross there, you will actually lose it. So the difference is when it's running and you want to stop it, it's the cross at the top, not the cross at the bottom. Everything between the countdown alarm and the hours, minutes and the name is your settings, your presets. Just under the clock, that's where it's actually running. So you hit the X at the top to get rid of it. But if you've made a mistake, oh no, you've lost the break. Or oh no, you've lost the entire Pomodoro. So now you've got nothing there. Okay? You can go in and build them up. So 25 minutes is my Pomodoro. So let's get 25 minutes in there. And in the name, Pomodoro. But I like, if we did that and we started it, we'd see Pomodoro down here with 24 minutes. And while that's fine, it's not pretty. So what I did was go into the minutes and put 25. And in the name, I use my Control, Command and Spacebar. And in here, we have a tomato somewhere. So let's put, oh, there we go, tomato. So that puts the tomato in. I put a space and then I type Pomodoro. And at that point, instead of starting it, I save it as a preset. And that is what puts it in here. I can then go back into here and set that to 5 minutes. And in the name, put break. And in there, same key again, Control, Command and Spacebar. And this time I thought battery was a good thing for, like, you know, restarting yourself, as it were. So let me get that in. That did not take that first time. There we go. So that's a break. And again, I saved that as a preset, and that lines them up underneath. Okay. And then you can start them, and that's what I do with it. So I mainly use this for Pomodoros. And for that, it makes no sense to me to have this status bar on to do it, because I don't want to see it for any other reason. I know we've got this option to take screen caps, but we'll come to that. 1, we could move it to the top. 2, we have total other ideas for it. So what I actually did in here, we do have the option in here to make some changes. So you can see a new countdown, and it's pulled these in from what I created. You can have, these are the alarms. We had lunch and meeting. They were the defaults in there. You can change this. So at the moment it says text only, but I could have that saying image and text, and that puts a little clock in there as well. Or I had that as text only, it made more sense. And then in here you can show the seconds, and you can choose to show the date if you want. So you can actually turn the date off. If you don't want to see the date, you can turn it off. But I'm going to turn that on. Right. And there's options in here to remove from the toolbar. Now, why would I do that? Well, I didn't. What I did with it was I used my shift key and I dragged it. I dragged it elsewhere. I dragged it up to the top here, which is why I look like I've got 2 clocks, because I've got the thing in 2 different places. It made much more sense to me to have it at the top, because I don't want to have this status bar turned on at all. So actually down here, I could say remove from the toolbar completely, which I did. And I have it showing at the top, which means I can go up here. So if I turn my Pomodoro on up there and I start it, oh, isn't that neat and tidy? So I'm working on a website like that, and I can easily see, it's easier for me to look at the top and the bottom, and I can then hide the status bar, and I don't need to see that at all. I love that. Absolutely love that. And there was me when they brought it out with, like, who needs that? And the answer was me, clearly me. I love it. But I need it somewhere else. I do not need it in the status bar. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some idea of that. What can I say, Patricia? Geek. I love it. It is useful. It is, honestly. Right. The other thing that was on the status bar that we were going to mention was this ability to take screen caps. So I don't think I have talked about this. It's not on my list, so I don't think I have. Right. You've got options in here to capture the full page or a selection of the page. So that's the first decision you have to make. Which bit of this page do you want to capture? And then, secondary to that, you choose to save as a PNG or a JPEG. And then, whether you want to copy it to the clipboard. So the first 2 options, PNG and JPEG, right? That just saves it. This one copies it to the clipboard. The 4th option is to create a note with it. So these are the options that we've got. So let's say I do want a selection and I want it saved as a PNG. And then I hit capture. And it's gone dark and given me a different mouse pointer where I can select what I want the image to be captured of. And as I do that, you'll see I get the camera icon at the bottom. Or I could go and choose another bit. So this remains editable. I can just hit the camera icon. When I do that, it's gone and it's saved it. And it's opened it up in the Finder. Here it is in the Finder. And there's the image. That wasn't helpful, was it? There we go. There's the image that it captured. I love the fact it brings up the captures. that enables me to put stuff in presentations. Of more use than capturing just part of it, to me, is the ability to go in here and say, capture the full page and save it as a PNG. Capture. I don't have to choose which bit. It goes away and it saves the entire thing. And that is what that looks like. So the entire page. So when you see me put a page in and then scroll it down, that's how I've taken it. But I don't, again, want to go down there and have to fiddle with the button. So one option is to grab that button, hold the shift key down and drag that button. I got the shift key. I have. And drag that somewhere more useful. So next to the Pomodoro would make most sense to me, at which point I can then close this. It works exactly the same way, only difference is instead of popping up, it pops down. But you have all of the options with it. But there's a better way than that, which is why I don't have it showing. Because if I don't need a button showing, it's not going to be shown. It's not. So I will show you one thing that we can do with this quick commands that we have. This is how I actually do it for real. So we all know Alfred, and Vivaldi has his own Alfred. So if I command an E, that's basically Alfred inside Vivaldi. It's Vivaldi's own thing. So what I want to do in here is not look through the tabs. But if we look at this, the first thing it offers me is tabs, and it's saying you've got 19 tabs open. So if I wanted to find after hours 146 for next week, I type in 146, and the two tabs here, I have one open for MacBites and one open for after hours. So my tabs are shown. Also in here, I've got the ability to calculate with that. So I could say, you know, plus 10, and it would calculate. I could search Google, or I could create a Vivaldi note with it. But I'm interested in the tabs down here. This will navigate me to a tab and back. Right. That's one thing that Alfred in Vivaldi, which is called quick commands, can do. But it can do so much more than that. It's unbelievable. So let's bring it back. What do I actually want to do? I want to capture the page. And look what comes up. Anything that Vivaldi can do will be shown in there. So I want to capture the page to a file. Oh, wow. Right, it's done it. And I don't need to remember any shortcuts other than Command and E. You only need the one, Command and E. I could allocate shortcuts to it. So there is many, many ways in Vivaldi to do the same thing. So if we go into the settings of Vivaldi, which are over here, and we look at, in fact, we can actually type in capture. Right, keyboard shortcuts. You can actually allocate 4 keyboard shortcuts, or just one. You know, if you are constantly capturing the page to a file, put a shortcut in. But then I've got to remember it. And on the occasions I want one of the others, I've got to remember those as well. And quite frankly, I have that many shortcut keys, I'm running out of shortcut keys. So it's easier for me, whenever I want to capture something, to just go in and Command and E and type capture. And it gives me the 4 options, and I just need to arrow up and down and press enter. So if I wanted to capture the page to the clipboard, I could do the same. And I don't need to do anything else at all. So I don't have the button showing at all, because I am used to using the quick commands for various things. Patricia says, I better pay attention. Elaine is so fast I look away and type and you're gone. Well, that's why it's available on replay. Right, other thing while we were looking in here about capturing is where to capture to. So we're back to capture. We'll look at quick commands again down the line. But when you're capturing, I'm capturing to Dropbox, which means if I need to capture some stuff from a different machine, because I'm doing a demo of Biggles, so I'm on a different machine, I have Vivaldi set up to save to the same location in my Dropbox. And then whenever I go into that folder on any machine, all the files are there. You can also use the, what would we call those? Sample things on the right, where you've got timestamp, year, month, day, all the variables, to create your own file names. So I have mine named, if we go back and have a look at the folder here, And there they all are. Mighty Deals and Vivaldi and all kinds of stuff. So that was one that I used last week, if you remember. I just wanted that. And that was a full page capture of fnd.io. So I have it set so it's the date in sort order, underscore the time, and then the actual path. And I've just realised, looking at that, there's a space in there that shouldn't be there. That's a space. So I'm going to get rid of it. So I have the year, the month, the day, underscore, the hour, the minute, and the second. And I added the second, not because it was particularly needed, but it would, if I'm taking 5 screenshots of a site, and I'm just boom, 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 they're going to be the same minute. And that's going to give me problems. It might get overwritten. So I added the second, and then I added the host at the end. And that's how the files are named. But you can have those named any way you want. So those are the 2 options that I think are really important if you're taking screen caps. Change the folder so it's in the cloud, and that way you've got automatic backup as well. And make the names fit how you work. At least if I have mine starting with year, month and day, I can sort them properly. It doesn't make sense to me to have anything else. I need to know when it was taken. And we all know, don't we, that I did that thing of how did I find a screenshot from 11 years ago? Because my screenshots are organised. That's how. And that's why I do it like this. There's no point in having a screen cap and thinking, I wonder when that was taken. And then trying to work back from the creation date of the file, because the creation date of the file can be edited. It could change if you move it from Windows to the Mac for a start. I was working with some stuff the other day and it told me it was created like 3 hours before. And I thought, no, this was from like 2014. And I thought, just rename the files. It's easier. The file name tends to stick with it. The other attributes could be overwritten. So that's why I do it that way. But I just find I have as few interface elements in here as I can get away with. I don't actually need the refresh button. That's just their historic. I don't really need the forward and back buttons either. I could get rid of all of those. Because if I'm navigating in a site, so I go from one page to another. So let's go through all of these. Right, and I want to navigate backwards. You never see me go up here. I just swipe back with a gesture. So I can navigate backwards really quickly. I can navigate forwards really quickly. Don't need the forward and back buttons. And if I want to refresh the page, I'll swipe up and down and that refreshes it. So I don't even need those 3 buttons, but I've left them there anyway. Oh, Kim says, do you have the image capture from Vivaldi hooked into the mouse as well? No, I don't, Kim. The one on the mouse, if I want, the capture within Vivaldi is purely to capture something that's inside a web page. So either the full web page or part of a web page. That's what I need in Vivaldi. The ones that I have hooked up on my mouse are if I want to take a screenshot of the entire Vivaldi interface or something outside of a web page, then I use the mouse for that, which was, it's options, isn't it? I think it's that one. Where you thinking of opening? Oh, for crying out loud. Not yet. Not yet. Right, let's go into it. So I have this button here wired up to screen capture. And I have this one here. That one's slightly different. That looks like a hideous shortcut, doesn't it? It's Shift, Option, Command and C. And it's what I have. And it doesn't even look like a button, but it is. There is a hidden button on the mouse there. That shortcut key is a global shortcut key to take a Snagit capture. So I have the quick commands to take Vivaldi captures, I have that button to take a Snagit capture, and I have this one to take a system capture. And they're all slightly different. You might think, why do you need that if you've got the Snagit one? Snagit doesn't take a screen capture with the drop shadow. There's no drop shadow on it. The screen capture one, the standard Windows capture, does. So sometimes I want it with a drop shadow and sometimes I want it without. If I want it with, I use the button on the top. If I want it without, I use the other one. The other reason that I use the one on the top is when I'm taking a screen capture of like a receipt or an invoice or something, while I could use Vivaldi to do that, it would go in the Vivaldi folder and it would be named according to the Vivaldi rules. Whereas I've been taking screen captures of purchases for years, literally for 15 years on a Mac. And they go in a standard place. And if I take the screen cap with that button, they go in that standard place. So I have lots of little rules kicking around, but they all make sense. There is a reason for it. So I have at least three ways to take screen captures that I use all the time. And I just know instantly which is which. Hopefully. Right, we got any questions on that? Anything other coming up there? I'm not seeing any. Have I missed any, Mike?
No.
Patricia says, I'm still playing with the shift move button for those icons and the pause button works. Are you having fun with that? I think that is one of the greatest things with Vivaldi, just how customised you can make it. So if you can imagine me working on a daily basis, I would get rid of the tabs and I'd have my little Pomodoro up here telling me how I was doing. The only extension that I use is this one over here. That's the only one that I have showing. But here's something else you can do. I'm still capturing. You must have tens of thousands of screenshots by now. Oh, believe me, I have. How many screenshots do I take in an average year? I do believe they're on Dropbox now, but I always put them somewhere that is illogical to me. Are they in? There we go. Screen captures. So there you go. So this is my data folder. It's my archives in here, and this one is my screenshots. So if we go in and see how many screenshots we've got in here, 5,591. But that is probably only part of this year. So let's get right back to the beginning. I'd expect that to be this year. There you go, 9th of January. So that's not bad, 6,000-ish since the 9th of January. But yes, I also have... where do I put them? Are they in there? I've got them organised by year, and I've also indexed them with Bridge so I can find them when I need them. So they're not actually in that folder, they are archived off elsewhere. But I think at the last count there was something like 56,000, but that's over 15 years. So yes, I do have a lot of them. So Carol's gone for year, month, day, hour, minutes. And title. That would probably work unless you're taking like a sequence of them like I do. That's probably enough. But these are when you're getting down to the kind of the real productivity features in a browser, and people don't understand. You know, if I say, well, I can take a screen cap. Oh, well, I can take a screen cap this way, this way, this way, and this way. I know you can, and so can I, and I do. But for pure speed, if I need a screen cap of that page on my website, I can do it really quickly. Other things are like people capturing to Evernote. So let's say I want this page captured to Evernote. I don't want to see up here extension after extension after extension after extension. I don't have that many anyway. These are what I've got. That's it. But I don't even want to have these showing, nor do I want to actually activate this and go in and have to select them. So that quick commands that we talked about, if I bring up my quick command and I want to use Evernote, web clipper, it brings up the web clipper without me even seeing it. I'll just capture that as is. All right, save a clip, and I'm done. And I don't have to click on the button. I don't have to fiddle with the extension. That's why the one thing I would love to see from Vivaldi is invisible extensions. At the moment, you either have visible ones in the toolbar, you have visible ones in the menu bar, or you have disabled ones. And I would like to have faceless ones, because why would I ever need to see TubeBuddy? I don't. Why would I ever need to see UStopper, which stops YouTube videos playing automatically? I don't even need to see the ad blocker for crying out loud. I certainly don't need to see the merge tabs because I've got a button to do it. And this, definitely not. I only installed this one because I want to use copy and paste in Google Docs, and you've got to install an extension. So I don't want to see them. So I think it would be fantastic if they let you just hide them, which I will suggest to them. That's a good idea. But the fact that I can access them, so if I wanted to send that to DevonThink, it's the same shortcut. I only need to know Command and E, and then that's it, clip to DevonThink. And if I did that, it would go and do all of the clip to DevonThink thing, which would open DevonThink and then start. We don't need to see it, do we? But it does it. Trust me on that. It does it. So there you have it. That's where we're up to with Vivaldi. I reckon one more week and we'll be done, and I'll take you through the preferences. that I have set up and stuff like that. But any questions, let me know. And we will head on to the next thing. So, oh yes, I'm still shipping 30 for 30. I've got 2 more days to go. I have day 29 tomorrow and 30 on Sunday. At that point, I'm going to start from the beginning again. I'm going to put them on the blog. But this time with pretty pictures and more of an explanation. I haven't been able to explain as much as I wanted to in those essays. So it will be... no, hang on, wrong way. There we go. It will be on the blog, as promised. Right, we're heading off into Mike's LAMBDA functions now.
When he's pressed record.
The Super Lamb Banana. Mike's favourite Super Lamb Banana.
Right, I'm ready.
Carol says, how do you set those up? How do I set what up? There's a bit of a delay, so by the time I've read the question, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. But if you can let me know how I set what up, then I'm happy to share. Right, let's get over to you then, because at the moment they're looking at a slide that says Lamb Banana.
Oh.
Right, there's Mike and his unicorns. Off you go, Mike.
Okay, so Super Lamb Banana, also known as LAMBDA functions. So I introduced you to LAMBDA functions last week, and I'm going to do another quick demo as a recap, and then go on to some other things. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got some formulas to calculate which quarter each of these dates is in. So I've got QTR as text, and that is combined with that complex looking formula which calculates the actual quarter number from the date. Now if you're going to reuse functions, that's where LAMBDA comes in. As I said last week, LAMBDA's not really for everybody. It's in the same way that building your own custom functions with VBA isn't for anybody and everybody. It's one of those kind of specialist things, I think. You know, if you just use Excel for fairly simple tasks, you probably wouldn't have a need to use LAMBDA. But don't let that stop you sort of investigating it, or at least understanding what it is. So to start with, last week I showed you that step 1 is to test it out, but I'm going to dispense with that. I'm going to go straight to Formulas Name Manager. I've already got one LAMBDA function set up here, which I'll show you what that's for shortly. That is actually a table. That's not a LAMBDA function, but its name just appears in the Name Manager. So I'll create a new name, and whatever I put in that name box is what will be used as the function name. So I might as well stick with quarter, because that's actually what I want to call this function. So you type it into the cell as equals quarter, just like you type equals sum, equals average, equals if, etc, etc. The reason it's put quarter in there is because it looks at the current cell, and the current cell is blank. So then it starts looking around cells that are around that cell, so it picks up the cell directly above it. So what I need to do now is delete out the refers to and type in the actual function that will be used to calculate the value. Basically, it's the workings out. Think of it like that. So we put...
I'm back at primary school. Show your workings out.
I was just going to say that. Show your workings out.
Do you know I was never good at that?
No, I know.
I'd just say, but I just know the answer.
Well, I'm going to show me workings out.
Oh, excellent.
It's like show your work, isn't it? Okay, so equals LAMBDA, open brackets. Now, the first thing I need in the brackets is a parameter. And if you think about how this function will actually be used, oops, what have I done there? How this function will be used, let's go back and do that again. New quarter. I think I pressed the wrong shortcut key. So equals LAMBDA. Can't spell it. There we go. What I need there is something to represent the parameter. I could use something simple like X or Y or Z or anything, but I'm actually going to use date because it is going to represent the date. Then I'll stick a comma, and then I will put the actual calculation that I want the lambda to represent. As I said, show your workings out. So it's going to be qtr space ampersand round up. Where's my ampersand? qtr space ampersand round up. It's one thing that annoys me about Excel when you start typing in here. It thinks that you actually want to select a cell. That's better. Round up, open brackets, month, open brackets, and then I'm going to put a date in there, close brackets, divided by 3, comma 0, bracket, bracket. Don't worry too much about what that's doing. It's basically adding QTR at the beginning and then, as I said, actually doing the calculation. So I'll click OK. And then what I can do is I can actually put in here equals quarter, open brackets, select the cell, close brackets, and enter. And that gives me Q1. Copy that down and copy that across and copy that across. So what I've done is I've replaced what was potentially a long-winded formula with a fairly straightforward function. Obviously, to actually build that function, you have to put the long-winded formula in. So to some degree, it's as broad as it's long. But if you're building the spreadsheet for somebody else, then you're doing all that hard work of building the function, and they can just come along and put equals quarter. Okay, now let's look at amending a function. So on here, I've got some functions already programmed into these cells. The function is actually called payment due, and it takes one parameter. So it is looking at A5 and it is adding a certain number of days onto what's in A5. And I want to change it. So instead of adding 30 days onto the cell that's referenced here, it adds 10 days. So I'll go into the name manager, select payment due and edit it, and then edit the function. So I've just changed the 30 to 10 and click OK and click close, and all of those cells update. So it's easy to edit a function if you need to. Now that was just a kind of quick refresh of what we did last week. But now I have been looking at some other Lambda functions this week that have only just come out. And they're only available to people on the Office Insider track. There was 7 of them, and I'm just going to show you one of them this week with a couple of examples, which is called by row. So we have this function called payment due. And I've been typing it in as equals payment due and a single cell reference. And then I've been copying the formula down, and it's changing the cell reference in each case. Pretty standard stuff. That's the way that you normally enter a formula or a function, type it in one cell and copy it down. But instead of doing that, I'll just delete these. Instead of doing that, I can actually enter in one function, reference all of those cells, and it copies down automatically. And it's using something that we did look at quite a long time ago, which is called a dynamic array function. A dynamic array function is where you enter in a function into one cell, reference a range of cells, which is the term array is just a term for a block of cells, and then it automatically spills down the rest of the cells as far as it needs to go. So we type equals by row, and it pops up the function name equals by row, open brackets, A5 to A26, which is the range, comma, and then the name of the function, which is payment due. Close brackets and enter. And what it has done is it has looked at payment due. And if you look in the workings of payment due, we know that it is adding 10 onto the transaction date. So that's why 7th of January becomes 17th and so on. But you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, there is a border around all of those cells. And secondly, as you click on these cells, the actual formula is grayed out. So you can't edit that formula. You can only edit these formulas by editing that formula. And that's what a dynamic array is. So there are about 7 or 8 built-in dynamic arrays, but you can now use dynamic arrays with Lambda functions by using the by row at the beginning. Let's do another example over here. So equals by row, open brackets, select the array, which is those cells there, comma, and then specify the name of the function, which was payment due. Okay, so I could do a similar one here. Instead of just equals quarter G5 and copy those down, I could put equals by row, open brackets, specify the range of cells there, comma, and then put the name of the function, which is quarter. And it does exactly the same thing. Same with profit, although I haven't got a profit function. I did build a profit function last week, and if I had a profit function, I could do the same thing. So there's by row, but there's also by column. So if you had data going across columns, and then you wanted to do some formulas on a column underneath, sorry, a row underneath, so a set of columns, then you can use by column, or by col it is. So there's by row and there's by col, very much like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Now I want to extend the by row with another demo. Do we have any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Right, so let's look at a third example. The third example is actually to do with custom data types, because you can now use custom data types with Lambda, which you couldn't do before. Lambdas could only accept text, numbers and dates. Now we did cover custom data types a while ago. If you remember, you go to data and you get all of these here. And I showed you geography and I showed you currencies, and I remember showing the different yoga positions for Sarah. So we looked at a few examples there. So just as a quick reminder, what I've done is I've typed in a list of countries in a separate sheet called notes. I've deliberately not put those in the report sheet. And the reason is, if I convert these to the data type of geography, we get that little card symbol appearing next to each one. Now that card symbol is quite useful in that when you click on it, it pops up a card and shows you lots of information about that country. You can also do it for towns and cities and states, but I chose to do it for country. And I don't want those card symbols appearing here, which is where the list of countries will go. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can't hide those card symbols. The other thing I've done is I've already created a table. So when I click into this block of cells here, the table design tab appears, and I've already named the table TBL countries. And I've said many times that you should always convert a plain list into a table. It just makes more sense. As I said on a training course the other day, magic things happen. And then I said, you're probably expecting Harry Potter to appear at any moment.
I'll get you a Harry Potter outfit for Halloween.
Mind you, unicorns are magic, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah, so there we go. Anyway, back to this. I want to display those countries in here, but I also want to set it up so that if we expand this list of countries, it automatically expands here. So I can do that with some kind of dynamic array, which I will show you shortly. But before we do that, I need to create a Lambda function which will show the country name. Now, if you go to a cell and you type equals and a cell reference and then a dot, up pops a list of properties. Only if that cell reference has got a data type of country in it or any of the other data types. So all of those properties there are properties of a country. So I could choose, for example, name and press enter, and it puts United Kingdom in there, but without the card symbol. Or I could put equals A2 dot and choose, what should we have? National anthem. There we go. God Save the Queen. And then I could copy that down. And that will give us all the national anthems. I actually want to, as I said, I actually want to put the names in here. But to do that, I'm going to create a Lambda function. I don't have to. I could actually go over here and put equals, select that cell there, and put dot and choose name. So there's two ways of doing it. And if you are fairly familiar with Excel, then you might actually choose not to do it with lambdas. Lambdas really are for I guess either making your own life easier or for novices where you're programming it for them. That's how I describe the use of lambdas. So I need to create the Lambda function by going to Formulas Name Manager and New. And I'm going to call this Lambda function country name. So that's the name of the function, country name. And then to actually build the function, it'll be equals lambda, open brackets. I then need a parameter, and I am just going to call it X this time, just to show you that you can call it anything. Then a comma, and then X dot name. So we want to grab the name parameter of X, where X is going to be defined as a country, because you're going to point to the cell that contains the country. Okay, so what I will then do is in A3, I'll put equals country name, which is the name of my function, open brackets, select that cell there, and then copy it down. Now I've copied it too far, so delete that. And if I was to add another country here, it does not automatically populate, so I have to copy it down myself. So rather than doing that, I'm going to use the by row function. So in A5, I'll put equals by row, open brackets. Then I want to reference the actual the table, so TBL countries country, and then comma country name. So I'm using the by row function to tell it to look at the country column in the countries table and extract the name property from every entry. There we go. And again, it's a dynamic array. And if I go back to here and I type Poland and press enter, it's automatically filled that in there. Okay, so that is dynamic arrays and lambda functions. Shall I carry on? I'm happy to do another one.
No, I'm fine. Just trying to open file and it's having a think about it.
Okay, I've got another one I can show.
Feel free.
Okay, let's do another example then. So I want to fill in.
I have a spinning beach ball.
You've got a spinning. That's not good.
No, the last time that happened, my machine had frozen, but it just carried on broadcasting. Do you remember?
I do. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's opened it now. Carry on.
Right, okay. Let me show you how to calculate the population. So it's going to work in the same way. What you could do is you could just put equals, then go over here, and then put dot population, and then copy that down. So that's one way of doing it. But to do it, it requires the end user who's building this spreadsheet to know how to build the formula, to know that they have to put equals, refer to the cell, and then put in a dot and select population. As I say, the lambda function basically encapsulates all of that calculation stuff and wraps it up inside the function, so it's hidden from the end user. So if we want to do it with the by row, then what we would first of all need to do is create the lambda function, which I will call population, and it's picked that up from the cell above. And the actual formula will be equals lambda, open brackets. I'm going to use XYZ this time just to be different. So XYZ is the parameter that's being input into the formula, which is the cell that contains the name of the country.
Isn't that tantamount to DimX?
It is.
Naughty.
No, in the real world, I would use the word country. But I just want to show that you can use anything you like.
Nicely recovered.
Oh, thank you. So XYZ dot population. Close the brackets and okay. So the function is called population. And if I want to fill all of these in, then I'll use the by row, and then I'll put in the name of the table, which is TBL countries, the name of the column within that table I want it to look at, and then comma population. And it fills in all the populations for me based on the names of those countries. You'll notice that I'm not pointing at those cells with the countries. I'm pointing at the country column from the countries table, which is that there, because they're the ones that have been defined as countries. These are not being treated by Excel as countries, they're just text entries. So that is a second example of Lambda. Any questions? I don't see any questions. Okay. I was going to make a point about Lambda, which I've totally forgotten. Yeah, I think Lambda is evolving. When I first looked at it, which was probably about, well, I think it was early in the year, it had only just come out. These things like by row and by column are brand new, so they're adding functionality. Where I think the real benefit will come is if you can reuse these lambdas across files, because at the moment the real restriction is that you're limited to using it in a single file. But if you could define a function like the sum function or the VLOOKUP function and just literally have that as, you know, as part of Excel, then that would make it great and make it much more useful.
I said that when it first came out. I just assumed it would do it.
No, there is a hacky workaround that I read on somebody's blog. Which I haven't.
What's better than
at.
a dirty hack, a dirty Excel hack?
Yeah. But yeah, if Microsoft actually could build, let you add the functionality somewhere that was then available, it's a bit like, what's it called in Word, auto text, where it just saves it into a template and then it's available in any file.
Well, they did build in stuff, didn't they? Can you imagine if it had something like the what did they call that thing? The one where you transfer styles between it. The
style organizer.
No, there was another one.
It was
something like a something book.
I thought it was called the style organizer.
Maybe it was. I thought it was like it looked like a little file of fax. You had file 1 on the left and file 1 on the right, file 2 on the right, and you just swapped and stuffed between them. That'd be cool.
Kim says, how do you know what to put in the formula? Yeah, experience, Kim, experience, or steal something off Google. I mean, to work out how to pull out the quarter from a month, I was going to do a long-winded formula which basically said if the month of this cell is 1 or 2 or 3, then it's 1. If the month of this cell is 4 or 5 or 6, then it's 2, and so on. But then I thought there must be a simpler way to do it. So I Googled it, and I came up with quite a few blogs, YouTube videos, Microsoft help pages. Maybe I should do my own tutorial, and then other people can find the tutorial on my blog.
Yay!
Yeah. But yeah, it's experience, or just logicking out the formula, as it is with most Excel formulas. Okay, Carol had put the Evernote clipper in,
yes,
which was her question.
I am switching over to me now to show it. You don't have to do anything. It just works. Oh, I love that. Been years since you could say that. All you need to do is install the Evernote clipper or any other extension exactly the way that you would normally. So in here, if you go to Vivaldi, / I do believe it is extensions. These are the extensions I have installed. Some aren't active. So for instance, I've got 2 one-password extensions. One for the desktop app, one for the web app. That's disabled. So I have things disabled and I have other things that are enabled. The ones that are enabled, so there's the Evernote one, and somewhere in here there is a DevonThink one. Where's the DevonThink one? Where are you? There's the Rome one at the top. The DevonThink one's in here somewhere. I swear it is, honestly. It'll be there somewhere. There it is. All you need to do is just install it. You don't need to do anything else. Now, if you look at the Clip to DevonThink, it says press Shift, Control and C to activate it. Yeah, works when it feels like it. Sometime never. So I gave up with it. It was just, if I want to use it, I will have to go up here and click the drop-down arrow and click on it. And the quick command means it's just a different way to access it, but you don't need to do anything to make it work. So if we look at this page, which is a standard page on my blog, and I Command an E and type Evernote, don't even have to type the whole thing, and then just enter, it activates it. So that quick commands is exactly the same as clicking on the button that happens to be hidden underneath the menu. And then I would put in there a tag for it, and DevonThink is a tag, and then save it. And for me, I just don't need to go and find the button. And the DevonThink one works exactly the same way. So hang on, wrong command there. That's Alfred. Right, so DevonThink in there, and we can actually do it if you want. It's going to want permission, which it does, and then open DevonThink. So DevonThink is having a think about it and opens. It has opened on the other page. This is the clipper that it's using, and it's set up to be a 1-page PDF, which is what I want. I just click add. I'm going to get rid of that. I installed Acrobat. It was a big mistake. And now it doesn't like it. And that is what it's clipped to DevonThink. So you don't need to do anything at all. It's just a different way of accessing it. Instead of clicking it, you use Command and E, start to type it, press enter, and it does exactly the same as if you did click on it. So you don't need to do anything special at all. You also asked if it could do video capture, and no, it can't, not yet. For video capture, depending on what you're trying to capture. So I know that sounds ridiculous, but if it's something that's going to need editing. Oh, Carol's isn't working. Is it not coming up in the Command and E? Is that the issue? Are you just not seeing it listed? Because we can fix that. Right, if we go into the preferences, no, not of the Finder. Why does stuff not twang back like it should do? Right, if we go in here and we look at quick commands, which is in there, we have this whole thing to configure them. And I want the extensions at the top. So these things in here, you can move them up and down. But I figured if I'm going to activate an extension, I want it to appear before the open tabs, before the calculator, before the bookmark, before anything. I want the extensions at the top. And if you take the tick out of extensions, it won't show you the extensions. So make sure that the tick is in extensions. And I would think the best place for it is at the top. It does come up in Command and E. Well, if it comes up in Command and E, there's absolutely no reason that it's not working. Is it available within Vivaldi? You've not disabled it. It is available in this drop down in here. Because I haven't done anything else with it. I haven't wired up extend shortcut keys or anything. Not done anything else at all. All the ones that are in there, I can actually access. So I think even if I wanted to click this to Notion, which I've not actually tried, but there you go. Say I've got the Notion web clipper and I've got the save to Notion, and they both come up. And that's exactly what they do. So, might be worth a restart and just check it, double check everything, and give it another go. Let us know how you get on with it. Okay, I will get that out of the way. I think that was it for questions. Yep, and we're heading into Scrivener. So it's part 6 of Scrivener. Oh, it's going to be long, this, isn't it? But you know, we're leading up to compile, and we need to be ready for compile. So let's head off into Scrivener. Right, we're looking at formatting. Now, there's two different things to think about with formatting. There's the actual format that you're writing in. So when you write in here, what do you want it to look like? Then, of course, you might be thinking at that point, what's this going to look like when I print it, when I send it somewhere else? And a lot of people come to Scrivener and spend ages trying to get it to look right in Scrivener. You don't need to. So that's point one. The most important thing you can take away from this is what it looks like in Scrivener can bear no relation to what it looks like when you take it out of Scrivener. So let's have a look what we've got text-wise. We don't have much text in here, do we? We don't. Shall I grab some text from somewhere? Let's get some text and get it in there. What you should be thinking about inside Scrivener is what should it look like for you to be able to work with it effectively. So if you want it to look dark or you want a big font, you can have it look like that. So let's see what it makes of this. There we go. That's come from my web browser. So it's grey, the links work, it's RTF format. But if I wanted to produce that, I wouldn't want it to be this font, which is Open Sans. I wouldn't want that. And I might want it to be black or something completely different. I might not want the bullet points to be blue. What it looks like in here bears no relation whatsoever to what it looks like when you produce it. So to prove that point, I'm going to send this out as a PDF. But this is compile. Now, we're not going to deep dive compile at all, but it's showing you what that actually looks like in here. You've also got all of these options in here, right? But what I'm going to do is in here, I'm going to say, right, in the default, first thing I'm going to do is duplicate it. So let's go into there and duplicate and edit it. So I'm now in this format, demo format, that I'm going to edit. Don't worry about any of this. The whole thing to think about is what stuff looks like. So we have all of this in here. And this is showing us what that text is going to look like. But we could override that, or we could let this override something else. So in this, we've got each of these different layouts. Now, I don't know what I've made that, but can we change the whole lot at once? That would be so cool. No, we can't. Darn it. Right, let's just have one of these. A text section should be fine, shouldn't it? So that's what it's going to look like at the moment. But down here, there's an override. So we can say, right, let's override it. So for a start, instead of it being dimmed out as grey, now it's black. Okay, so I'm going to override it. So I'm going to select this text, and I can use styles if we've got styles, but we've not looked at styles yet. But I can certainly in here say, let's use a totally different font for when this. So that looks like a paperback. And I would like that to have much more of a gap so it's easier to read. So let's take that up to 1.3 and save it. Now, what we've got in here looks nothing like that. But that is what we're saying that we want this to look like. when it comes out. So over here, I want number 8 to be produced that's got some content in it. And just compile it. And fingers crossed, we'll put it on the desktop. Fingers crossed it all works. All right, let's have a look at it. There we go. So while I'm working on it in Scrivener, it's in Open Sans, but when I produce it, it's in whatever I selected, which is a serif font. So you've got to think about, so the stage we're looking at today, right, what we're concerned about today is what it looks like when you're working with it. We are not concerned with what it looks like when you produce it, because it can look like anything you want. You should know that from the emails that I do. It doesn't look like it's got buttons in here, and nor has it got anything else around it, but when it's produced, it does. So that's why compile is magic. You literally can work in here with it looking any way you like. However, the problem is Scrivener doesn't make it as easy as it could do for you to work in here in a way that you would like. Now, I know this more than most because I have a file, the MacBites file, and it is 2011 it was made. So it's heading to 10 years old this year. And I didn't have everything configured the way I'm going to show you now, which means I constantly have problems with it. It's easier to make a new one, trust me. Okay, so your first port of call before you do anything, and I mean even create a Scrivener file, don't do it until you've done this, which is go into the preferences. I know the preferences are horrific. There is so much in there. You've only got the 7 settings across the top, and some of these are irrelevant. We're not looking at backup and we're not looking at sharing. But within each one of these, the top level headings that you have, we have multiple things underneath. So you then have subsettings over here, subsections. And this is why it takes so long to configure this, and you'll find yourself tweaking. But all of this we can look at a later date, because what we're concerned about in here, when you go into editing, options is your first port of call. You need to go into the editing preferences and set up your options and your formats. And if you are going to have some kind of revisions, set the revisions up as well. Okay? So in the options, what do you want the default zoom to be? Now that might seem like a silly question because you just set the text, surely. But would you? Because some people do print this out. And then to look right on your screen, you've got it at like 24-point font. But when you print it out, that's way too big. Now, we can fix that in compile. But we need a happy medium to know, well, what are we doing by default in Scrivener? Then what are we doing if we want a rough printout? And thirdly, what are we doing if we want it compiled? So setting these the best way for you at the beginning will save you a ton of heartache later. I tend to have the default zoom set to 125. So normally when I'm in here, this will be set to 125, which looks like that. That does look a bit shouty, but only on this screen. Remember, this is much smaller than my iMac usually is. So 125 is about right, and it means that my font, so my default here, is always Avenir Book 16 in black. That's my default. Showing at 125%, you'll notice that although I set that on number 8, all of the others have followed suit. If I then change that down to 100, it does it to all of them. So that default that we're talking about in here, right, you may want to change that to something else. It's completely up to you. But you can change it in there. But let's put that in at 125. And if we come out of that, you're not going to do 125, are you? How bizarre. Right, it won't work backwards. So I tend to do it in here. So certain things I do in there. Where did you just disappear to? That's the one we're looking at. Right. So let's get back into those preferences. I'll leave that at 100 because I set it in the system. Right, then there's things that you would already have set by now. So if you're writing direction changes, right to left, left to right, you might want to do that. The ruler units you may not see unless you turn the ruler on, but you do have options for centimetres, inches and more. Right. I haven't changed that in this file. Now, there's no ruler, but if you Command and R, then there is a ruler. And what that actually shows you is, in addition to the spacing that you pick, it's also got these markers on it for tabs and hanging indents and all kind of weird and wonderful things. So I would probably change that to centimetres because I have an opposition to inches. So I think I probably set that to centimetres. It would just make more sense to me. Right, then you've got the typewriter scroll line, which is, if you're scrolling in here, where do you want it? So normally it's in the middle of the editor, but you can also have it the top, the third, the quarters, wherever you want it. These options are options that I think you would change once in a blue moon, but who knows? Right, the other things in here in terms of all of these options, Smart Copy and Paste is what enables me to copy from a website and paste it in and it looked like it looked on the website. So I do have that turned on. In terms of the live counts, I do want a word count, and a pages count can be handy. Characters I don't bother with, but if you want that, then you can turn it on. And then you've got options with the footnotes and the comments. And if you remember, the footnotes and the comments came up in the info panel on the right-hand side. Then you can disable the insertion point blinking if you want to. So if that drives you mad, if it's like, I'm having a moment, I can't think of what to write and that's driving me mad, you can turn it all off. The majority of the stuff in there, I think you set that once and then probably leave it alone. But the most important settings are in the format in here. And this is where people go absolutely stark staring mad with Scrivener. That is in there is not the default that you will see. The default is, I think it was Keith's favourite font, who's the developer. And it's got a first line indent and a hanging whatever. And I'm like, no, no, no. I need it to be really basic. I want it to be totally plain. So I went in and I changed everything. So I came in here and I use these, so you can change the font. Clicking on that brings up the font window, which it handily opens on another screen. But if you wanted to change that, that's where you would change it. Obviously, that's not a good look, but that's where you would change it. You've got the bold, italic and underline if you want that to be the default. Now, remember what you're setting here. You are setting the default. Then you've got whether it's left aligned, centre aligned, right aligned, or fully justified. This is where you've got the colour. You can then highlight it if you want, and you can change the line height. Now, the line spacing was really important to me because when we use this for MacBites, I don't want the text all squashed up. I need to be able to see it. So as far as I'm concerned, what I've set in there is my preferred defaults. You need to set this every time you install Scrivener. So if you get a new machine and you install Scrivener, you need to set all of this up. And obviously, it's easy to think, I've forgotten it all. So there's a couple of ways you can work around that. One option that I used to do was take screenshots of it, which is a very visual way of working. The other option you've got is when you've configured everything, you can actually export them. You can save the preferences as a preset. You can load them from a file, or you can save them to a file. Now, you might be thinking, just a minute, what's the difference between saving them as a preset and saving them to a file? Patricia says, so the default is only what we see for eyesight reasons. Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what font it is, what size it is, what colour it is. Nothing matters. Compile can take care of all of it. But people who are new to Scrivener come in and spend weeks setting it up to look perfect in here. And perfect in here for a paperback might not be perfect in here for working on it. So no matter what, if you're sending it out to an editor, no matter what the editor wants, no matter what a publisher wants, no matter what a self-publishing company wants, you can create that in the compile settings. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Make it comfortable to you in here. And if that means lime green font on a purple background at 47 points, you can do that. So what we're looking at here is the difference between a preset and a file. If you save your preferences to a file, I would suggest you put them on a cloud service and they become independent of this Scrivener install. But if you save them as a preset, then they're inside here for you to work with, but not necessarily can you easily use them on another system. It's the same with the themes here, where you can save a theme and then load a theme, and we have different themes here that you've got available. Now, a theme is nothing to do, well, it kind of is and it isn't. It's not what we're setting up in this formatting in here. This is looking at the look of Scrivener, which we will look at. But again, you've got the option to load the theme, save the theme. You can save the theme to a file, you can load it from a file, or you can have it inside your Scrivener configuration. So that's just your options for saving it. But at this stage, go in here and make sure this is how you want it to look when you are working with it. Now, one option is to do what I've just done, which is to go in there and format it with this. I will be coming back in and doing it again, so you can see different options with it. But right now, I've already been in here and this is the default that I've set. In addition to that, I also have set a font for the notes. So this up here is 16, but the notes font is only 12. I've also put in comments and footnotes and said that the inspector comments font is Avenir and that also is 12. So in here, I've done three things. I've set it up for the default of how it looks in the top half. And then in the bottom half, I've got the notes font that I've set and the comments and footnotes that I've set. Which means, having done that, if I go down here and I insert number 9, when I come into here, the quick brown fox, it looks as I had it configured in here. Now, some people think, oh, what's going on? Because if you go in here and you want something different, so the easiest thing for me to change is probably the font. Could do with something we can actually read, but something that looks very different. Maybe the MacBites font. Oh, fabulous, look at that. Right, so I've changed it in here. Awesome. Let's go back into here. Right, the Crick Brown Fox, new line, jumped over the not so lazy doggies. But I've still got the other font. What happened? It didn't change. No, because you're not changing it retrospectively, you're changing it from that point forward. So if we go into 10 and we come into here, this Quick Brown Fox is now using the defaults. So those defaults within the preferences are only used from the point forward that you set them. So that's no good, is it? It'll drive you mad. What I found myself doing was like not creating any text until I'd made sure it was perfect. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But there are a few things that you can do. So we have items in here with just some text in. And this, I think, 9, which was the one that had a lot in it. That one had a lot in it. Okay, but that one was doing its own thing, wasn't it? That wasn't either Avenir, nor was it the comic font. This one is Open Sans because it came from the website. So, what do you do? Because we actually want it to look like that because we're insane and we want to sit and look at that all day. Right, well, one option is to go back and manually format everything. That way, madness lies. So I would suggest you never do that. When we look at styles, which we will look at next week, unless you want to get a head start, which I'll share something with you. But you can have styles, and styles can be used in one of two ways. As you update a style in Scrivener, it will update any text that has that style applied to it, just like it does in Word. So one option would be to use a style and update the style. But what if it's too late because you haven't got a style, which we haven't here? So this over here, when we're in the text, no style. It's unstyled text. These are what our styles look like. Well, I didn't define that lot, did I? It's using the default font as I change it and pulling it through. But it doesn't retrospectively apply again. So styles are good, but we're going to leave them alone for a week because it's you're probably at the stage, if you've got a lot of scrivenings and they don't match, what you really want is to make them match. So this is what we want, but we'd like all of these, and there could be thousands of them, we'd like all of these to look the same. Well, the good news is you can do that. There's a dirty hack. No, actually, it's a feature. So if I select all of the ones that do not have the right text, and we can see they're not the right format. Okay. Oh, Patricia, I might have just the thing for you if you need to fix a file this weekend. Hold that thought. Right. All I need to do in here, right, is up in Documents, there is a Convert option. And one of the options is to convert the text to the default formatting. Obviously, for this to be any use to you whatsoever, you need to know where the default formatting is, but now you do. It's in the preferences. So if I click that, I then get the option, which is all the formatting in all of the selected documents is going to be reset to the default, and this can't be undone, so be careful, basically. But it does allow you to keep certain formatting. So if you only want to convert the font, then things like the colours and your highlighting will remain. You can say remove all the styles if you want. Now, we haven't got any styles here, so it doesn't matter. But if you did have styled content because you had no idea what you were doing and now you want to make it all the default, then you can put a tick in there and get rid of all those styles. Not delete them from the box at the top where they live, just delete them from all of the text that you've got down here. Then you have an option to keep any font size you've applied, any alignment you've applied, the tabs and indents and the line spacing. But I don't want any of it. I just want this to be default. So I would actually say if there were any styles, I'd remove those as well. So that is how you would nuke it back to the default. But you may or may not need a tick in the styles box. That would depend if you've got any styles. But here we haven't, so it doesn't really matter. So I'll take it out just so you can see. If you've not got styles, it doesn't matter. And then click OK. And boom. Everything updates, and now everything is fixed. And isn't that hideous? It's vile. The only thing it retained was the fact that a link is formatted as blue with an underline. That's the only thing it retained. Rest of it, totally gone. Oh, Patricia's got styles. Is this good news or is this bad news? Let me know. So you can fix it retrospectively. Now, obviously, that's not good. And now I've basically broken it. Oh, dear. But I can do exactly the same again. So you're not limited to doing this just once. I'm going to go into my editing here. This isn't good. This isn't what I wanted. So let's go back in there and choose Avenir. There's my Avenir. It was Avenir 16 in book. That's better. And all I'm going to do with that, I've changed the default. And I just need to come back in here and do the same thing. Document convert, text to default formatting, and click OK. Now, I know many people have come to me and said, I've been working on this for 5 months and I can't make it happen. And that it's as simple as that. But what they've done is they've formatted things in one way and then formatted things in another way. And then they get really concerned that when it comes to the output, it's not going to work. It really isn't going to work. It's all going to be mismatched. And it's not. It's not. Right, that is how you set everything up itself. So what we've done is we've gone in there and we've applied this default formatting. The thing to remember with this is, which is really unusual, is what is set in there is the basis for every new file. And that's what's so important. Now, it does say underneath, default text formatting can be overridden on a per project basis via project settings. Indeed, it can. So if you normally want that, but for whatever the reason, you don't want that for this particular file, then as it says there, project settings. And inside project settings, you have section types that are on a per project basis. Your labels are on a per project basis. Your status list is per project. All your custom metadata is, and there is the formatting. Together with autocomplete lists, special folders are configured on a per project basis. Background images are, so if in composition mode you want to have a backdrop, you can do that. You can even choose backgrounds for the corkboard. And your project backup can be configured on a per project basis. But we're interested in formatting. Oh, Patricia says, I need to apply headers, chapters beginning, the numbers for the scenes, etc. All of that can be done in Compile. You don't need to fiddle in here doing that. All of that can be done in Compile. So in our formatting in here, this is on this project basis. You can choose whether you have a footnote marker. You can choose different default formatting for new documents. Now, this one's important. And when you look at what's down here, this looks nothing like we've got. And at the moment, while I can click in it, I can't actually make any changes up here. And that's because you need to say, use a different default in this project. These settings will override the settings in the Scrivener preferences. So what people find difficult is the same thing looks like it's in 9 places, and which one overrides which? Well, this one overrides the one in the system settings. So in the Scrivener settings. So in here, you say, I want to do something different. Now let's say that's what you want it to be. You want it to be have an indent here. If you want it to be that font, which is really tiny, you want a huge thing of 1.5, whereas mine's normally 1.2 or 1.3. And you can also set a different inline footnote font, which down at the bottom initially is Times New Roman 10. Right. Okay, let's go with that then. That again does not set everything that you've already got in there like that. What it will do is in here, so we're now on to 11. The reason that one didn't change was we didn't have 10 selected. So there's 11.
Another question from Patricia.
Okay, just let me get the quick brown fox in. Right. Don't I need to apply styles in the document first before exporting it so it knows what's a heading? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It can infer headings from structure. So, for instance, what's the best way to do that? What you call these scrivenings over here could be headings. And you could say, let's get a new file, new project, and use the fiction thing with parts. That'll be good. No, don't put it there. Crying out loud, don't put it there. Right, let's put it in here. Novel. Where you go. Right, what we have from this one is there's a part, so that's the book. And the book is in parts. There's part 1, there's part 2. And this is chapter 1 and chapter 2. There are no numbers, as you can see. But it can be inferred that because this part is before this part, that will come through as part 1. And that will come through as chapter 1, and that will come through as chapter 2. So you don't actually have to number them yourself if you're going to use by implication in here the structure. So if I wanted to add chapter 3, I would go up here and add a new folder, and that would be chapter, but I wouldn't need to name it 3 particularly, and then inside it, that can be another scene. And that's scene, it would be chapter 3, scene 1. And it can be implied. And the reason that that's important is if you'd done this, which obviously most writers do, I'm on chapter 1, and this one here, that's chapter 2, and obviously that one is chapter 3. And it's highly unlikely in fiction that you would do this. It's very likely I would do this with the kind of stuff that I write, when it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, but now I need to explain the preferences first, so I could do with that being up there. And then you'll kick yourself because you've got 27 chapters, you've got to renumber them all. You don't need to renumber them all if you let Compile take care of the numbering during the compile process. That doesn't mean that makes it easy for you during the creation process, because then you're like, well, which chapter's which? So I'll show you the features, and then it's a matter of you working out what will work best with your app. But, you know, if you number them like that, madness happens. So one of the files that I've got, let's have a look at that one. That's handy, open on the other screen. Right, let's bring that in. And that. All right, let's get rid of some of this stuff we don't need. Right, this is the course content. So if I bring these up, these are the lessons, lectures, call it what you like, videos. There's no numbers, Because if I number them and then reorder them, like I want to put the Mac one before the Windows one, then that's a problem. So here they are numbered. But they're not numbered in terms of, if I go in to edit what 8's called, the 8 isn't there. It's part of the display and nothing else. So in here, I just add the numbers rather than physically add the numbers. And that way they automatically update. So if for whatever reason I take the wrap up and I want that at 0.3, the gear guide becomes 19 and this becomes 3. And that way I don't have to renumber them. So that's the way that I work with them. But I see what you're meaning with applying a style so it knows what a heading is. If you want to get down to that level inside your file, then yes, styles can be very useful. So really you need to see the whole picture before you can actually go back to the beginning and start again and have it right, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, let's get back into here. So what were we doing with that? What was left to cover? What I was going to do was show you if I select the whole lot at this point and I go back into let's go into here. One thing it didn't make clear. Let's have a look. Let's do that. Let's do document convert and default formatting and see what happens. Right, that was what I was hoping would happen. So what that function does, documents convert, apply default formatting, depends on if you have document or project level formatting set. When we used that command before on this same file, it made it Avenir, and now it's made it the serif font. And that's because the project settings override the Scrivener preference settings. So if you do something like I've just done, I think, just a minute, that's not what I wanted. And then it's like, oh, am I ever going to get this back the way I want it? You've got two options. If you want that to be Avenir, two options. One option is to go into the project settings and take the tick out the box. And now when I go in and do my document convert, it is using the settings in the Scrivener preferences. But if in your project settings you have a tick in the use different formats, the very same command does something wholly different based on the settings in there. So I know how I felt at the beginning with Scrivener, with like, what's it doing? I have no idea what it's doing. Why is it doing that? There are lots of different places to go in, but there is a logic to it. It's just a matter of working out what that logic is. Right, other thing to think about. In your project settings, and it doesn't really matter whether I do this in the project settings or whether I do this in the global settings, it really doesn't matter for this demonstration. But one of my bugbears is I don't want it indented, so I take that back. And then in here, I would choose the font that I wanted, which is Avenir. And I would want it 16. You'll notice 16 not even available. But you can type in there and press enter and that will make it 16. I don't have it quite that much, so take that down to 1.3 maybe. And let's say I wanted, for whatever reason, I wanted it to be green. Right, and OK. Right, we've done it in there and it did make some changes, but not all the changes we need. These lines have changed to green, that's grand, but the text hasn't. And the reason that the text hasn't, it's not changed the font, it's not changed the colour, is you might just imagine if doing that automatically changed everything and you didn't want it changed. You'd go stark staring mad. So you do need that extra step to go through and back to the convert and reapply it. But that way, it only applies it to the ones that are selected. So if I only select, so that one's all green, you can see that. If I select these, and I go and make some changes, but I don't select 8, 9, 10 and 11, but I do go back into the project settings, and I do go into here, and think that was a really bad idea. You know, it needs to be black. And OK, documents, convert, default formatting, and boom, it's back to black. But 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 aren't because you didn't have it selected. So it does give you the ultimate inflexibility, but I'm the first to admit it's not wholly logical unless you know precisely what it's doing. And that is what it's doing. Now, within your text, so saying in here, for example, you can override those default settings. Now, this one isn't the default settings anymore, is it? But I can convert it to that and then start work on it. Right, now it is. So if every time it said Dev and Think, I thought, yep, I want that italic and I want it bold, and I might even want it to be like the nice blue colour that we've got, then I can override it. What you have to think about before you start playing around like that is for that to look like that in your output, what's the rest of it going to look like? So when you think of formatting it in here, I would say potentially think again. Now, in Scrivener 1 and Scrivener 2, by far the most requested feature was styles. I was banging the drum for styles. I was. When they implemented styles, it's like, oh, it's okay. You really have to understand what is going on with styles. Styles are used in two different ways. I mean, a style is a recipe of formatting. So that word Dev and Think is now the default plus italic, bold and blue. That taken together could be a style. I could create a style for that and I could apply it throughout my document. But what I've got to think about is when I come to output this, I've got to make sure if I want the Dev and Think thing to look like that every time I mention Dev and Think, that's a lot of work for a start. So even if I create a style, look how many times the word Dev and Think's mentioned. And I really do need to think, am I doing that for me in here or am I doing that later? And that will determine how you actually create that look. Because if this is a paperback, it's not even going to look like this font, is it? Much less. I mean, a paperback's usually black on white, so it's not even going to come through. Well, the blue isn't. So you really need to think up front what you want to do with it. Styles themselves can be used in two ways. They can be used in the editor when you're working with it, but they can also be used in terms of the output. So some of my files have got styles in that would not be used in Scrivener. So I think the best one to show that is probably the email file. I do think that has one somewhere in here. Oh, right, styles. Let's get some text. Right, there's a heading 1, which is what you're talking about. And that is a heading 2. And within this down here, I think that's a heading 2. Sometimes I have a heading 3. And this bit here, this is button green. That's never going to show as a button in here. That style is for export. So all of my styles up here, that's export, that's export. All of the button ones are export. The headings are both. These are both. But you have to map them. So that's why compile is going to take like 4 weeks, because it's complicated. But I have in here, we actually had the unordered list. Didn't we have it blue at one point, Mike? And you didn't like it. You thought it was a link. So we ended up making it pink for Mike, bless. So what it looks like, where would I have bullet points? A reminder, VIP reminder. Oh, that's not bullet points. Oh, that should have been bullet points, Mike. Naughty, naughty, I've done that wrong. That shouldn't be there. Let's get rid of that. They are now automatically bullet points. So if it's pink, it's a bullet point. It says it's an unordered list. But that's because of the compile. So if you've ever seen an email, looks nothing like that. So these styles in here, there's no way to separate them, right? You have your paragraph styles at the top. You have your character styles underneath. You can see them in a panel if you want, but there's no way to separate them to say, these ones here that say button, they're all to do with compile. Styles are styles are styles to Scrivener, it doesn't care. So I can apply that in here and it will make it look a little bit weird, but it won't actually make it a button, but the interpretation on the compile will make it a button. So we're probably getting ahead of ourselves with styles, but styles are used in two different ways, is the essence of it. So when you come in here and you start manually styling something, stop. Because you've got to think about, just a minute, how do I want this to compile? Because this is just for you working and nothing else. So next time, the first thing we're going to look at is setting up Scrivener so it looks different. So just to prove the point that, if you do want purple text on a green background or vice versa, you can do that. In fact, we've actually seen a little bit in here in our, was it in options or was it in appearance? We had it somewhere in here. I never use this. This is why. Where are we? Right. Load a theme. A theme is what Scrivener looks like. So you'll see here, these look like dark themes. A Midsummer Night, Purple Haze, Solarized. These solarized ones are supposed to be calming on the eye. But let's have a look what Midsummer looks like. So it's telling you that it will change. So I'm hitting OK, and with a bit of luck, things will change. There we go. Right. Dark mode. Lovely. So you get a totally different look for the whole application. So if we bring back now, this had a certain look, a certain colour applied to it, and now, of course, it's totally different. So let's go back into the preferences again and go down. And there was another one, which was the Solarized Dark. I usually quite like Solarized. Yep, it's like got that greeny background, and it's quite nice. But you have a whole range of them. And the thing is, you can create these yourself. So I'm just showing you the ones that are actually in here if you want to see them, like Purple Haze. This is going to be painful, isn't it? That's not actually bad. I could live with that. But what we're looking at here is, this was blue and it's still blue, but it's very pale. Our notes were yellow and now they're purple or lavender. You can have Scrivener look like anything you want. And I've seen some really weird setups. The background of this page is now, look at the highlight, even the highlight's different. But the background of this page isn't actually white. It's gone to like a vellum creamy colour. And all of that is coming from settings in here. But you can set independently, and that's where we're going to start next week, which is on the appearance. You can change all of these things here, all of them, and then save them. And that's what's happened here. These are settings that they have provided for you. But just proving the point, what your work looks like in Scrivener needs to look nothing like what the output looks like. It doesn't. But to get the best of compile, you need to be as minimal as possible inside Scrivener at editing time. At writing and editing time, it's an editor. It's not, you're not formatting the final output, so don't spend hours making it look perfect, because when you come to compile, it probably won't look perfect anyway. You'll have page breaks in weird places and stuff like that. So all of it can be controlled with the compile. You can even take the same information and compile it in 5 different ways and having it looking totally different in those ways. So if one editor wants a Word file and another wants an EPUB and another one wants a script, you can do all of that. But to get the best out of it, you need to be as minimal as possible at this stage. Right, so we've sort of got there with our formatting. Styles is the next thing. But if you want to get a head start, I've got something for you. So let's get back into there. Come on, back you toddle. Right, I have an entire course on styles, which that should say styles, shouldn't it? I'll go and show it to you. But I have an entire course dedicated to styles. So let's go and actually have a look at it. Let's get a browser and totally have a look at it. Udemy Scrivener styles. And hopefully my course will come up. Oh, awesome. Right, let's get that on here.
I'll just stick the link in.
Yep, feel free. So I've just Googled it and there's my course. Oh, there's our Pomodoros from earlier. Awesome, they've come in as well. Right, this is the course. Save time by automating formatting with styles in Scrivener. So it's an hour 36, I think. It's got everything in it you could possibly want to know about styles. It's actually logged me in here. So if I logged out... well, you put the link in. Let's start with that.
The link's in.
Right, if I...
In the meanwhile, Patricia says, how can I use italics so I can see it in Scrivener?
Use italics. Just make that the default. Just make that the default. I think I'd need to log out, wouldn't I? I think that's what I'd need to do. Let me try a different browser. Oh, let's try Canary. What have I been up to in Canary? Not much. There we go. So let's go in there and have a look at it. There it is. That's the outside. Oh, it's on sale right now. You've got 5 hours left to get it at 54% off. There you go. So that's the course. It's everything you need to know about styles. Next week, what I'll be doing is like the mini version of that. The mini version of that. And wouldn't it be good to get to 500 students while I'm at it? That'd be cool. Right, so that's the course. You've got the link in there. Let's go back into here. In fact, let's come out of there. And if what you want to do is have all of your text italic, so it was number 8, wasn't it? That had a lot in it. Let's say I want to see all of the text italic in here by default. And there's 2 places you can do it. You can either go into your Scrivener settings or you can go into your project settings. And in the formatting, you set the default up, in this case, to be italic, and OK. And that will apply it to all of it when you go through the document convert. Now, if what you want is not that, you don't want that to be the default. So that, there you go, there's the default. But if you don't want it to be the default, if you just want to, on some text, have some text, so the word brown, italic, you can choose for that to come through on a compile, or you can create a style called italic and map it at the point of compile. So we don't actually have that. You'd have to create it. So I don't, when I'm highlighting, I don't just do that and highlight it. I have a style for highlighting it. And I style the document with it. I'm thinking it'll make more sense when we've gone through styles. But I wouldn't personally just italicize it. I would be concerned. I'd have to make sure at the point of compile that any character formatting that was applied was transferred into slides for that to actually, transferred into the compile for it to work. But we will test all that when we come on to it. Right, let's get back in there. So that's the link. It's a short form link. Right, okay. I will answer the last questions in here. So I see we have another question. Carol says for her book last week, you had to copy and paste it into Google Docs for work. Would compile have made that easier? Yes, what you would do with compile, now obviously if you were able to do that, then how you formatted it in Scrivener is how you want it, which makes compile simple. But what compile will give you, you would have had the option, if you wanted it in Google Docs, you'd have had the option to take it to either a Word file, which text edit will open, you don't need Word, or an RTF file. And what would have happened then is the styles would have transferred with it. And you could open either of those in Google Docs if it was Google Docs it needed to go to. But by using compile, you just give yourself a whole lot more options than just the copy and paste thing, which is like brute force. It will work, but you have to think about things that won't work. So for instance, what do I do in compile? It won't work if you copy and pasted. Let's say that in your editor, you want to see the text in blue. So some text, like if you make something italic, it's so subtle, you can barely tell. So just think about what I did with mine. Let's get back into my, not the Blue Yeti one, which one was it? Email generator. Right. So in here, I can tell by looking at that they are bullet points. How do I know that? Because they're pink. But you don't, if I copied and pasted that and I pasted it into Google Docs, they'd be pink. They wouldn't be bullet points. To make them bullet points, I would have to make them bullet points in here. But making them bullet points in Scrivener does not mean, when you export it, that they're bullet points, necessarily. It's ridiculous, but that's how it is. So, how they look in here, if I copy and paste that and I paste it somewhere else, I'm not going to get these as bullet points. But if I compile it, I will get them as bullet points. How on earth do I do that? Well, I will show you, but don't worry if it makes no sense. When I compile the MacBites Mail, there is magic going on. So if I go in here and I edit the format, there is a lot of magic going on. I've got all of these styles and I'm mapping them. So my unordered list, every line of text gets wrapped in an UL, in an LI, which means a line item. And then the whole thing gets wrapped in a UL. So I've used a style in here, but I've used it so when I export it, it actually writes code around the text. So compile is amazingly powerful. But precisely what you need, you really do need to actually think about it a bit. So hopefully that will make more sense down the line. Right. Let's go into here. Where were we? Right. So coming up, we are back with you next week. 17th of September. It's just the year's just flown by. And on demand, everything is available at youtube.com/ElaineGiles. So we do have the After Hours playlist, which is macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. The big announcement this week, of course, was the California streaming event, which is Tuesday the 14th, 5 o'clock UK time, MacBites FM. That is where you will find us enjoying it and having a rare old chat about it as well. The next MacBites will be premiering on Monday instead of Tuesday, presupposing we can actually get it ready, because there's nothing done yet, is there, Mike?
No.
That's not good. No, we'll work on that. Because we can't be in two places at once. Well, technically we can be in two places at once, but, who wants that? Right, we love you guys. If you have enjoyed the show, give us a like. It really makes a difference to YouTube. Right, there is my list where you get all the details of stuff that I am doing, elainegiles.com/VIP. And there is macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail for all of the MacBites stuff. And then on top of that, there is the Slack chat room. Oh, we have fun there. That is where we carry on the conversation during the week. And that is macbites.co.uk/Slack. Okay, do we have any final questions before I whip that over there and we're sorted? So let me have a look on here. Carol had to restyle in Google Docs, which was a pain. No, you wouldn't need to do that. But what I will say is, setting it up initially, you lose the will to live. Because it's so different from anything else you've ever used. But once you've done it, it's a doddle. So if I had to, which I used to do, I used to format every mail manually with MacBites. And I did lose the will to live several times. But once it's set up, it's just automatic. You just compile. As long as you're working with... The app has its moments, doesn't it, Mike? But generally. So no, you would not need to reformat it. As long as you formatted it correctly, you've got two options. You either format the whole thing manually in Scrivener and then just export it to a Word file, and that would work. Or you can have a compile setting, which is more nuanced. So in the compile setting, you can, let's say you write, for example, I mean, this is a really weird example, but let's say you write in English. So favour, favourite has a U in it, but you're sending it to somebody in the States and they don't like to see the U, favour, labour, you name it. You could actually tell compile to de-UK it. And you can say every time you come up with this word, change it to that word and change this word to that word. Compile is just amazing. It really is. But it's tricky. People find it quite impenetrable. But we've allocated at least 4 weeks to it, so we should be fine. We shouldn't have any problems at all. Right, let's change that over to that and see the last questions. Right, I think I'm going to need a stronger pair of glasses. This is tiny. What happened here? Oh, Graham, that's bad planning. And I think Mike had bad planning in regard to that as well. Working on Tuesday and we'll be late, but at least you'll be there. Can you buy the icons yet? I will sort that out, Carol. Mike, put it on a post-it note. Put it in Notion, on a Notion post-it note, and I will sort that out. Right, Patricia needed to export to Word for a book proposal. Internal dialogue needs italics, and it's all through the document. Oh, wow. Well, the good news is, once you know how to use those features, you could have it italic at that point, and if you wanted to change it later, you can do. And that converts what you've got, saves you a ton of time doing it manually. I've seen people sit and do it manually, but you don't need to. You just need to understand how those formatting options can help you, because I think everybody gets into Scrivener and thinks they're there to hinder them. And so many people, spend the time setting it all up to the way that they want it printed out and then find it difficult to work with. And there's quite a faction, if you go off and you look for Scrivener help, you get people that are really quite snappy and vocal about, well, you're not supposed to be formatting at that stage anyway. But, you need to work with it the way that it suits you to work with it. So I don't think there's any need to be sniffy. You can change the whole thing anyway. Maybe they just don't know how it works properly. Let's just say that. Oh, Carol's liking that. Very useful. Company's Canadian. Well, yeah, there again, you need a list. So start creating the list now, Carol, of words that want changing. And once you've set it up once, that's it. You don't need to set it up again. You can take it from file to file. You can have it from computer to computer, and you only ever need to do it once. So it's worth the effort, but initially as you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, I can't do this, but it's worth it. Another thing I've seen that used for is as like a safety net, which is somebody writes a book and they've got a character called Peter in it, and they then decide that Peter's going to be David. But they're concerned that they've left a reference to Peter in there somewhere. So all you do at compile is put, if you see Peter, change it to David and you're done. So yeah, it's amazing what you can do. It's amazing. Right, no, you mean only part of it's italics, only the parts. Possibly a style then? A style with that might work. Depends where it's going and how it's getting there. Okay, do we have any more questions? I am dying with this heat, Mike.
Me too.
I am not happy. I am hot. It shouldn't be this hot. They're telling us it's cool. They're lying. Shall we have a look what it says the weather is, Mike?
70s.
Oh, mine's in old money or new money. Mine says 18. But it's this time at night. It should be about 13. They're saying that...
It is outside.
Oh, look at that on Thursday. They have managed to sneak a sun in there and saying it's 21. It's September. I need to get a refund on this weather. It's not acceptable. But it's saying, what's it saying for tomorrow? Let's have a look. I need it cooler. Don't care what it's saying. I need it cooler. 18. That's still too hot. I think it's because our office is hotter, isn't it? You said it was cooler downstairs. But the office is hot because of the equipment. So, I'm not happy if it's that hot. But never mind. Right. Will I include this when I cover compile? Yes, Carol. Mike will make a note of it, and I will. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Debbie. Converting words. Changing A to B on compile. Have I ever done that? Don't think I have in anger. I've tried it and it works. So it's like, that's cool. Oh, Patricia's got a small fan from hubby for the desktop. I've got a fan on my desktop. It's about, is it 8-inch fan? And behind me, I have the industrial fan to end all industrial fans. But if I turn it on, that's all you'll hear. So I have to have it turned off. This isn't the hottest I've been when I've been training. Do you remember that day it was about 58? We were dying. We were literally dying. It was bad, but we got through it. So as soon as I've finished, I will be heading off and turning this fan on and drinking lots of cool water. So if that's it for questions, we will indeed head off. We will be back with you. So the order of business is, we will be with you virtually Monday night, 8 o'clock on MacBites FM, Tuesday at 5 p.m, MacBites FM, and next Friday, 9 o'clock. On YouTube, where we are right now. But for the moment, I'm going to say good night from me.
And a good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.